Hello guys, this is your friend Naruto Audio Fanfics and we are back with a new fanfic. Which is what if Naruto became the greatest sword master in Shinobi history, and Yugao, Hinata, Ino, Temari and Tenten chose him above all. Part 1. And if you enjoy this fanfic then please press the like button and subscribe to my channel for more fanfic like this. And now let's start the fanfic. Go away, what did I ever do? A 4-year-old Naruto said after being cornered by a group of drunk civilians after a long chase through the street of Konoha. A couple of the civilians moved closer to the cowering boy. What did you do? You know what you did, demon. An old civilian said, going right into Naruto's face with as much hate as possible, trying to scare the demon. The rest of the civilians started to get closer. We got it cornered, now I say we torture the demon for what he did to our families, a random civilian said. The civilians all agreed. Stay away please, I didn't do anything, Naruto said, curled in a ball too scary to move. The old civilian that is in Naruto's face picks Naruto up by the hem of his shirt and throws him into the center of the whole mob. They started to move in on Naruto. Naruto tried to get up but was then kicked in the ribs. Please stop, Naruto cried while being beaten from all angles. What did I ever do to deserve this? Naruto thought sadly while hoping someone would save him like they usually do. So Naruto just closes his eyes and started to take the pain without shouting out in pain so that maybe they would leave him alone. Academy 20 minutes earlier. Hayate Gecko, you pass, Matsu-sensei said. Here's your headband and make us proud, Asuhi-sensei said beside his partner. Thank you, Asuhi-sensei, Hayate said gratefully, bowing his head slightly while tying his headband on and exiting the exam room. He's gonna go far, Asuhi said. Matsu could only nod in agreement at that statement, knowing it to be true. They got up and followed Hayate out of the room to give a speech to the new genin. Good job, Hayate, Jin said while giving Hayate a pat on the back. Thanks, Jin, Hayate said proudly. More of the genin started to approach Hayate to congratulate him on passing high tet to become genin. Asuhi and Matsu appeared in the front of the class. The students who passed, please take a seat and be quiet, we got a couple of things to tell you. The ones who did not pass, try again next year. I have faith in all of you, oh try your best, Asuhi-sensei told them. The students who passed sat down and the ones who didn't left. Okay. Now genin of Konoha, you start your ninja career. From this day on you represent this village and the will of fire, so show how strong we have grown and show the world how great of a ninja you can be, Matsu-sensei said with passion. Hayate gave a small smile. I will, sensei. I will protect everyone in this village and show how strong the way of the sword truly is, Hayate thought. Most of the genin started to cheer and talk between one another. I'm finally a ninja, Hayate. I cannot wait to show what I am made of in the field, Jin said, shaking him slightly. I hope I am on your team, Jin, Hayate said happily looking at Jin. I hope I'm on your team too, because we would make an awesome team how we fight, with your sword techniques and me with my taijutsu and genjutsu, Jin said smiling. Quiet down now, Matsu shouted. The students looked toward their sensei quietly. Now be here tomorrow at 8:30 to find out who your team is going to be, Asuhi-sensei said. The genin all started to rush out of the academy to greet their parents to show them that they passed. See you tomorrow, Hayate, Jin said, running off to his mom. See you, Jin, Hayate said, waving to Jin. Hayate left the academy grounds to get something to eat because his father was out on a mission right now. Hayate entered a dango stand and sat down. The waiter walked over to him. What would you like, sir? The waiter asked. I would like 4 sticks of dango and some tea, please, Hayate said. The waiter started to walk away. Your order will be out in a minute, the waiter said, walking to the back. When the waiter walked away, Hayate started to look around till his food came. 2 people were whispering at the table near the table he was at, so he started to listen to the conversation. The demon is going to get what he deserves. I saw him running off with a bunch of civilians chasing him, old man said. Are you sure they will be able to kill it? A younger guy asked. I hope so, or I will try and do it if they fail. That demon does not deserve to live, old guy replied. Hayate rushed out of the dango stand as fast as he could. Hayate started running all over trying to find the kid before the mob could kill him, so he started to listen for any screams from the kid or any shouts from the mob that went after the kid. He didn't hear any scream or shouts, so he turned on another street. Hayate ran past a ramen stand and he started to hear people shouting, so he ran up a street and turned into a alley which the shouts are coming from. He saw a huge mob attacking the kid he was looking for. He hot forward as fast as he could. Naruto. Someone help me please. Naruto thought he knew if he screamed he would get beaten worse, so he showed no signs of fear of anger on his face and kept it blank. Naruto heard shouting from the mob. Then the mob stopped beating him. He didn't know why they would, so Naruto opened up his eye and saw that the mob moved back quite a bit with someone standing in front of him with sword. Get out of here now, Hayate shouted to the mob of civilians. Why are you protecting the demon? He does not deserve being protected, he deserved to be tortured, a random civilian shouted. He is a little kid, not the demon which you accuse of him being, so get out of here now or I will make you, Hayate said determined. A civilian rushed forward, with a knife drawn. If you're protecting the demon, you will die then, he shouted, charging Hayate. Hayate got in a kenjutsu stance, drawing his blade while moving with the stance. He stepped to the side from an attempt at a stab. Then Hayate grabbed the civilian's wrist and snapped it. The civilian fell to his knees from the pain. He then followed it up by bringing the guard of his sword up and struck the civilian in the temple and knocked him out. Two more of the civilian charged Hayate get into a ready stance and went to the side and stabbed one civilian in his knee, then cut a shallow vertical slash up his body to his shoulder. The civilian drops forward and passes out from blood loss. Hayate ducked under a swing from the other civilian and slashed across his midsection, making him drop from blood loss near the other civilian. He looks at the other civilians. They turn scared and run away. Hayate sighs and turns around to face the kid while sliding the sword back in the sheath. Naruto started crawling back away from Hayate, still frightened by what happened to him. It's okay, I am not going you like those stupid civilians, Hayate says to a confused and scared Naruto. You don't think I'm a demon? Naruto asked, confused. No, I don't. Because you're not a demon, just a boy, Hayate says to Naruto. He walks up to Naruto and picks him up. What are you doing? Naruto shouts. Taking you to the hospital to get treated for these injuries you got from the attack from the mob of civilians, Hayate says to a distraught Naruto. Naruto relaxes while Hayate starts to run to the hospital, carrying him on his back. Not realizing that the hurt civilians on the ground were now gone. Hayate ran down the streets as fast as he could to the hospital. What's your name? Naruto asks. It's Hayate Gecko and I am 12 years old, Hayate replies. What's your name, kid? Hayate asks after a couple seconds. My name is Uzumaki Naruto and I am 4 years old, Naruto responds. A couple of minutes later. Are you a ninja? Naruto asks. Yes, I am. I just became a ninja today before I saved you, Hayate says. Cool, I want to be a ninja to like you, Hayate, Naruto says, slowly starting to pass out. Really? Well then you're going to have to work pretty hard then. Can you do that, Naruto? Hayate asks. Hayate sees the hospital coming up, so he picks up his speed. I'm gonna work as hard as I can. I'll be the best ninja ever, Naruto said softly, falling unconscious. He looks over his shoulder at Naruto, seeing that he passed out. I guess his body was damaged pretty badly. I got to hurry, Hayate thought, getting to the hospital and rushing into the front counter. When Hayate was about to tell the nurses about Naruto, a hand landed on his shoulder. Hayate look up and sees an Anbu. What is it, Anbu-san? Hayate asks. The Anbu points to a room down the hall. The room is ready for him already. The Hokage set it up for you. I told him what happened, the tiger-masked Anbu said. They rushed to the room. When they got to the room, two nurses took Naruto off his back and laid him on the bed, and started to heal him. Hayate walked to the bed once the nurses finished up. Will Naruto be okay? Hayate asks the one nurse. Yes, he is stable, he will be perfectly fine when he wake up, so don't worry too much, the nurse replied. Thank you for helping him, Hayate, a voice said from behind. Hayate turns around to spot the Sandaime Hokage. Hokage-sama, why are you here? Hayate asks. Sandaime walks up to Naruto's bed once Naruto was hooked up and healed. I am here for Naruto. He is like a grandson to me, so I had to make sure he was alright, Sandaime says to Hayate. Thanks for saving him, Hayate. Those civilians will be punished for this, they still have not learned yet, the Sandaime says angrily, for what they did to Naruto again. No problem, Hokage-sama. Just helping someone who needs it, Hayate pronounced. Hayate got closer to Naruto's bed and took off the sword on his back, placing it up against his bed. This sword is for him to learn and use if he ants. I'm getting the family blade tonight, Hayate says to Sandame, while turning around and starts walking towards the door. He said he wanted to be a ninja, so I wanted to help a little bit, and that sword is my way of helping, Hayate says, walking out the door and heading home. Sandame looks towards Naruto's from, then smiles. Naruto-kun, looks like you made a decision to become a strong ninja to defend yourself and Konoha, and I will support you all the way, Sandame thought while telling the nurse to tell him when Naruto wakes. Sandame leaves, heading towards the Hokage Tower to deal with the civilians who did this to Naruto. The Sandame Hokage was sitting at his desk doing some of his paperwork that he neglected, due to the incident with Naruto. A tiger-masked Anbu appeared in front of his desk. What do you have for me, Tiger? Sandame commanded, pushing his paperwork aside for later. Hokage-sama, we have interrogated the two civilians that were taken down by Hayate, the tiger-masked Anbu responded. What did you find out? Sandame asked Tiger. We found out the names of the civilians who were responsible for attacking Naruto and are now being apprehended, sir, Tiger replied. What should we do with them, Hokage-sama? Tiger asked. Execute the ones who attacked Naruto and the ones who stayed back, torture them for 24 hours to make an example of them, Sandame commanded. The tiger-masked Anbu nods slightly while turning and vanishing out of sight to get the order out. Once Tiger was gone, he pulled his paperwork back in front of him and got to work. Naruto-kun, if what Hayate-san said was true about you wanting to be a ninja, then I will enroll you in the academy in 2 weeks, if you want, Sandame thought while pulling out an academy enrollment form and signing it. Sandame puts the form in one of his drawers, locking it for when Naruto wakes up, then gets up and heads to bed for a long day tomorrow. Next morning, hospital. Naruto slowly starts to open his eyes. Where am I? All I remember was Hayate carrying me, Naruto thought, confused. Sitting up, Naruto started to look around the room he was in to find out where he was. I'm in the hospital. When was I brought here? Naruto softly said to himself. It must have been Hayate who dropped me off here, Naruto thought happily, because he might have a new friend now. Naruto slowly tries to get off the bed, but at the moment Naruto finally got off the bed, a nurse walks in. Seeing him up, the nurse walks forward quickly and picks Naruto up and lays him back on the bed in a hurry. I'm fine, Naruto says to the nurse unhappily, because the nurse wouldn't let him up out of bed. No, you're not fine. I can tell just by looking at you that you're still in pain, the nurse says sternly. So no getting up, the nurse told him, walking out of the room to tell the Hokage that Naruto was awake. After the door shut, Naruto started to look around the room again, grumbling that he was fine. Out of the corner of his eye he sees Hayate's sword next to his bed, realizing he did not see that there right away. He must have forgot his sword here, Naruto thought, picking the sword up and pulling it out of the sheath, marveling at how the sword looked from the sunlight reflecting off the blade, making different colors appear on the blade. Wow, this is amazing. The sword must have cost quite a lot, Naruto whispered out loud. It sure did, Naruto-kun, but that blade is no yours, Sandame replied, stepping closer to Naruto's bed. Naruto's eyes widen and almost ends up falling off the bed onto the floor, but Sandame places Naruto back up into a sitting position on the bed. When did you get here, Gigi? I didn't even see you come in, Naruto asks. I came in when you first pulled your sword out of the sheath. You didn't see me because you are dazed by that blade, Sandame replies, softly chuckling. Naruto blushes from embarrassment. Sorry, Gigi. I'm just not used to seeing any type of sword or weapon like this, Naruto replied, scratching the back of his head, setting the sword in his lap. Quite alright, Naruto-kun, it's your sword to use no anyway, Sandame says, looking at Naruto. Really? But this is Hayate's sword, will he not miss the sword? Naruto asks. He won't miss it, Naruto. He is the one that gave it to you, saying how he wanted to help you in some way for when you become a ninja, Sandame replied, looking at Naruto's face. Naruto picks up the blade from his lap to hold it. If it's from Hayate, I will not let him down. I will become the best ninja in all the nations using this sword so I can protect and defend Konoha. No matter if they hate me, I will get them to accept me for who I am, Naruto says, making a vow with the sword in front of him. Sandame smiles, pulling out the academy form from his pocket. You make me proud, Naruto. I want to help you on your path, Sandame says. Naruto turns his head and looks at Sandame. This is an academy form, Naruto. I signed it with my approval. I know you're only 4 years old, but would you like to join the academy in 2 weeks from today? Sandame asks. Naruto jumps up and hugs Sandame, ignoring the jolt of pain he got. Yes, I want to. Thank you, Gigi. Naruto happily replies, sitting back down on the bed. Well then, Naruto. I got to go end this form in. Would you like to come with me? Sandame asks. He got an answer when Naruto shot up and got dressed as quick as possible while sliding the sword onto his back once his clothes were on. Let's go, Gigi. Naruto says, already walking out the door while the Sandame followed after him to lead him to the academy. Hayate. Hayate was looking around the classroom at all the genin who passed, waiting on Asuhi-sensei to name the teams. Jin walks up to Hayate and sits down next to him, just arriving there now. Wow, Jin. Still late even after you become a genin, Hayate says, lightly laughing. Hey, I'm not that late. They didn't even call the teams yet, so I'm fine, Jin said, waving off his comment. Asuhi and Matsu walk in through the door and stood in the front looking at the class. Seeing they were not going to get quiet, so they announced their presence. Be quiet, Asuhi and Matsu said loudly. They quieted down. Now listen up, these will be the teams and senseis, Asuhi proclaimed loudly. I hope I am on Jin's and Meow's team, Hayate thought. Okay, listen up, Team 1 will be. Now Team 6 will be Hayate Gecko, Jin Minori, and Miko Turian. Your sensei is Shi Itome, Matsu sensei announced. They will be here shortly, so wait till they arrive, Asuhi sensei announced while walking out of the room with Matsu sensei. The teams started to gather to get to know each other. Miko gets up and walks over to Hayate and Jin. Hey guys, is it okay if I sit here with you? Miko asks, although a bit shly. Hayate turns his head instantly to her. Sure, Miko. We are a team after all, so it would be best if we get to know each other better, Hayate says. Miko sits down next to them. What type of ninja are you? Jin asks curiously. Well, my skills that I am really good at are taijutsu and trap making, Miko replied. That's going to help our team nicely then. My best skills would revolve around my kenjutsu and my ninjutsu skills, Hayate says to Miko. My best skills are my taijutsu and my genjutsu, so your taijutsu and your trap making skills fit in nicely with this team, Jin said to Miko. Miko just looks at them and smiles. About 30 minutes later of discussing different topics, Hayate, Miko, and Jin realize they are the only ones left in the room. Where is our sensei? He should have been here already, Jin shouted. Don't worry, Jin, he will probably be here real soon, Hayate says. After Hayate finished his sentence, the door flew open and several kunai shot into the room. Jin dodged left out of the way. Hayate drew his sword and brought it up and deflected all that came at him, but he realized most of them were headed for Miko, so he jumped in front of Miko and helped her to deflect some of the kunai into the wall. Good job, you were able to dodge and deflect my kunai, a ninja said while walking in through the door. They all got in defensive stances. Who are you? Jin said, shouting at their attacker. I'm Shi Itome, your Junin sensei. Who else would I be? She stated, looking at them. Then why did you attack us? Miko asked. Ah, just testing your reflexes, she said, smiling. They stare at him. Only one thing comes to all of their minds. Is he crazy? Now Team 6 meet me at training ground 6 in 20 minutes. If you're not there on time, we will be training in reflexes the rest of the day, she said, smiling evilly while vanishing in a swirl of leaves going to training ground 6. Hayate and the rest of Team 6 eyes widen. They rush out of the open window in the room and rush down the street as fast as they could so that they could get to training ground 6 in under 20 minutes. Naruto and Sandame just arrived at the academy and went in. What room are we going to? Naruto asks while they continue to walk the hallway of the academy. We are headed to the teacher lounge, Naruto-kun, to give them your form, Sandame replied. They find the room they were looking for. They open the door and enter the teacher lounge. What are you doing here, Hokage-sama? Asuhi asks. I'm here with little Naruto, here to get him enrolled in your class in the academy in 2 weeks, Sandame replied, handing the academy form to Asuhi for him to look over. You sure, Hokage-sama? This class 1 god are all kids in their 4th year here already, and it says here he is only 4-year-olds. Everyone in this class are 10. I mean he's not even 6 yet, which is the required age to enter your 1st year. I'm sure Asuhi. I'll get someone to teach him the basic before he comes to your class in 2 weeks. He probably will surprise even you when he comes to your class then. So don't worry, he will be a good addition to your class, Sandaime told Ashi. Asuhi looks at the form one more time while sliding it into his folder. He turns to Naruto. Be here in 2 weeks to meet your class, Naruto, Asuhi said, smiling at him. Okay, sensei. I will, Naruto replies happily because he will be able to be a ninja sooner than he thought. Well then, see you in 2 weeks, Naruto, Asuhi says as the Sandaime and Naruto turn around and exit the teacher lounge. Did you see that sword? It was Hayate's. Looks like Hayate took a liking to him, Matsu says, appearing next to Asuhi. It does not matter. He is his own person and it's our job to start pulling out that potential in him, Asuhi replies. They turn and get back to work. Naruto and Sandaime start walking back down the academy hallway they came up to leave. Thanks, Gigi. I get to be a ninja sooner now, Naruto says. That may be, Naruto, but that's only if you pass all your classes and work hard to achieve your goal, Sandaime says to Naruto as they continue walking down the hallway. I know, Gigi, and I will do my best, Naruto states, running forward. I know you will, Naruto, Sandaime thought, watching Naruto. Naruto kept running down the hallway, not paying much attention to anything, so when a door opened in front of him out of nowhere, he crashes right into the person walking out. Ow! Naruto thought, falling onto his back. Are you okay? I'm sorry, a girl with purple hair asks, standing above him with a hand out to help him up. Yeah, I'm okay, thanks, Naruto says, taking the hand to get up. Once Naruto was standing, he looked right at her into her brown eyes and froze. Wow, she's beautiful, Naruto thought, staring at her. Sandaime sees this and stays back to let the two talk for a bit. Are you sure you're okay? The girl asked with a concerned look on her face. Yeah, I'm fine, are you okay? I mean, I did run into you after all, Naruto says. I'm fine, I mean, you running into me hurt a little, but that's okay, she replied. That's good, I thought I might have hurt you somewhat, but I'm glad you're okay, Naruto states. The girl just smiles at him for his concern. So what's your name? Naruto asks her. My name is Yugao Azuki. What's your name? Yugao says. Naruto Uzumaki. It's nice to meet you, Yugao, Naruto says. It's nice to meet you to Naruto, but I got to run now, see ya, Yugao says, running down the hallway. Naruto just looks on as she runs down the hallway. When Yugao reached the exit, she looks back at Naruto. Maybe we will see each other around, Yugao says before running out the doors. I hope we do, Naruto thought. Sandaime walks to Naruto. So Naruto got a crush, Sandaime says, teasing Naruto. Naruto starts sputtering. No, I don't, Gigi, Naruto shouted with a blush on his face. Sandaime chuckles. Naruto sticks his tongue out him. Okay, come on then, do you want to get something to eat? Sandaime asks Naruto while ruffling his hair. Ramen, Gigi. Come on, Naruto says, dragging the Hokage out of the academy with him to the ramen stand. Team 6. They were rushing to training grounds 6 as fast as they could. We are almost there, I can see the training ground from here, Hayate said to his team while he jumps to the net tree. Yes, we are going to make it, we still have 6 minutes to make it, Jin shouted, picking up from branch to branch the close they got to the training grounds. Miko looks at them, then looks on while they finally land on training grounds 6. They landed in the field where their sensei was waiting for them. Looks like we got here before 20 minutes, Jin said with a grin. So what are we going to do, sensei? Hayate asks. Nothing. You did what you had to do for today, Shin said. They look at him like he is crazy. Huh, don't we have some sort of test? Miko asks. Hayate and Jin both nod and look at Shin to that question. Getting here in under 20 minutes is part of that test, so there's nothing else to do today. The other part of the test will be held here at 8 in the morning tomorrow, and it's a survival test, Shin explained to them, smiling evilly because he got something planned for them. Team 6 all shudder at Shin's smile. So we can just go home then? Hayate asks, slowly, unsure. Yep, but be prepared tomorrow, the test I have planned for you guys tomorrow won't be easy, Shin explains, laughing while leaving in a swirl of leaves. They turn to each other. I say we get here an hour early and prepare for our sensei's test, Hayate proposed to his two teammates. Jin and Miko both agree with Hayate's plan and all three starts to head home with the test on their minds. Naruto. Naruto walked up to the ramen stand seeing Ayame and rushes in to greet them. Hey Ayame ne-chan. Naruto shouts sitting down a stool. Hey Naru-chan. What would you and Hokage-sama like? Ayame asks seeing the Hokage sit next to Naruto. They started eating discussing things. The Sandaime finished his food first and placed money on the counter for his and Naruto's food. Naruto wanting to stay longer and talk to Ayame, Sandaime bid them good day and went back to the Hokage tower to get some of his paperwork done. Naruto ordered more ramen. Ayame turns to him to continue their conversation after the Hokage walked out. So what have you been up to Naruto? Ayame asked Naruto while he slurped up his ramen. Today was great Ayame ne-chan. I'm joining the Ninja Academy in 2 weeks because Gigi enrolled me today, Naruto says happily. Already Naruto. I thought you had to be 6 to enroll in the academy, Ayame says. Nope. Gigi got me in, and I'm going to make him and you guys proud. I'm going to be the best ninja anyone has ever seen, Naruto stated. Ayame smiles while bring Naruto another bowl of ramen. Well, you got to work hard then if you want to achieve your dream Naruto-kun, Ayame says. I will. I'm going to starting training tomorrow, Naruto replied finishing his last bowl of ramen then standing up because it was getting dark. Well then see you tomorrow after your training. I'll have a big bowl of ramen waiting for you in the afternoon, Ayame shouts watching Naruto run off. Naruto waves rushing off down the street. Naruto runs down the main street heading towards his apartment. While running down the street a drunk guy steps out in front of him, making Naruto stop a couple of feet back. Those other guys failed so I'm going to finish you off here demon, old drunk said coming forward to stab Naruto with a broken booze bottle he had. I am Naruto. I'm not a demon you old drunk, Naruto shouted and pushed the guy back a bit. The old drunk went forward again to try and stab Naruto. Naruto on a scared reflex drew his sword and swung his sword in a vertical slash upwards right when the guy got in his face, slicing right through the drunk's right arm. A shocked Naruto takes a couple of steps back feeling all the blood on him and seeing it on the ground. You demon! The old man yelled in pain charging forward intent to kill him. Naruto sees this so he stood there and waited for him to strike. Naruto sidestepped to the right away from the stab, and then Naruto steps back in front of the drunk and takes a deep breath plunging his sword up through the drunk's stomach and out his back. After a couple seconds he pulls the sword out with a blank face but then takes a deep breath again and looks at the guy now on the ground. I better tell Gigi what happened, Naruto said to himself. Naruto looks up and sees an Anbu appear next to the dead body, picking the body up and hoisting it on his shoulders. I'll deal with this, and then tell the Hokage, just head home Naruto and get some rest for your training tomorrow with me, stated the Anbu. You're training me tomorrow? Naruto asks excitedly. Then the dog-masked Anbu nods then vanishes. Naruto heads towards his. Getting to his apartment, he opens the door getting undressed and takes a long shower. After the shower he cleans the blood off his sword. Thank you Hayate, if it weren't for your blade I might be in the hospital again tonight, Naruto thought putting his sword against his dresser then Naruto headed towards his. He laid on the bed. I'll finally be starting my training tomorrow, Naruto thought falling asleep. Naruto jolts up falling out of bed due to someone knocking on his apartment door. Naruto sloly picks himself off the floor still slightly dazed but noticing not much light was entering in through his window. He turns to his clock, realizing it was only 4 in the morning. Who the heck is it this early in the morning? Naruto thought pissed storming to the door to give the person a piece of his mind. Another knock resounded on the door. I'm coming. I'm coming. Naruto shouted opening the door almost breaking the door off the hinges. What do you want? Naruto asks angrily at a silver-haired guy who was standing outside his door. I did say be prepared for training today and get some rest last night, the guy with silver hair and only one eye showing replied. Naruto looks him over for a couple seconds, then realizing that this was the Anbu from the night before. You're that other Anbu that Gigi had watching over me, Naruto says. Yep. Though the name's Kakashi. Now get ready and get your sword, it's time for training, Kakashi told Naruto. Naruto then turns around and runs back into his apartment slamming the door right in Kakashi's face. Well, I guess he's excited, Kakashi thought to himself waiting for Naruto to come out. The door suddenly shot open PNCE again with a fully dressed Naruto standing in front of him. I'm ready, Kakashi-sensei, Naruto said to Kakashi, while shutting the door behind him. The meet me at training ground 7 in 13 minutes so we can begin. I have to pick some things up, Kakashi said, leaving in a swirl of leaves. Damn sensei. You could have just dropped me off there. Naruto grumbles to himself in having to run to training ground 7. About 20 minutes later, Naruto runs into training ground 7 expecting his sensei to already be at the training ground. Where is he? Naruto asked himself, taking his sword off his back and lays it on the ground, while he himself sits down leaning against a tree to relax. About 10 minutes later, Naruto looks around, not seeing Kakashi yet, so deciding to get up and try his sword out on a wooden dummy a little bit before Kakashi got there so he could get a feel for the weapon. Naruto picks up his sword and gets up, heading towards a wooden training dummy. While unsheathing his sword, he puts the holder on his back. I feel like this weapon was made for me, Naruto thought, staring at the sword he got from Hinata in his hands. Naruto then got into a random stance that he came up with in that moment, charging the training dummy. He started swinging different ways to see what was the best way to swing the sword he had. After 20 minutes, he dropped onto his back from exhausting himself, still having the sword in his hand tightly gripped. Kakashi appeared above him in a swirl of leaves and scrolls in his hands. Where were you, Kakashi-sensei? Naruto asks, standing slowly. I went to go get some training equipment and materials for our sessions these next 2 weeks before you start the academy after, Kakashi states to Naruto. Naruto nods. Will you still be training me while I am still in the academy as well, sensei? Naruto asks. Yes, I will be, but only when I'm not busy with Anbu missions. The Hokage needed someone to start training you, so I volunteered to help you out, Kakashi says, putting most of the scrolls he had and kept one of them out. Thank you, Kakashi-sensei, Naruto says enthusiastically. Kakashi looks at Naruto throwing some arm and leg weights at Naruto after he pulled them out of the scroll he was holding. The arm weights weigh around 10 pounds each and the leg ones around 20 pounds each. You will wear them all day every day, but not when you're sleeping at night, Kakashi says, watching Naruto slip the weights on, barely standing once on. Now what, sensei? Naruto asks, feeling the strain on his body from the weights. We will up the weight every 2 days by 5 pounds. You will do the warm-up now. These weights on every day. You'll do this to get your body awake and aware, Kakashi says to Naruto. Naruto eyes widen at this, knowing he could barely move right now with this excess weight on him. The warm-up will consist of 50 push-ups, 50 sit-ups, 50 punches, 50 kicks and 50 laps around the training ground. Once warm-up is done for the day, the real training shall start, Kakashi states. Any questions? Kakashi's a stunned Naruto. Are you freaking insane? Naruto shouts, thinking he was crazy. Never thought about it. Oh well, begin, Kakashi says. Naruto got down and started to do his push-ups, grumbling about his crazy sensei. Kakashi turns and jumps into a tree and relaxes while reading his new Ichi book he just bought today. Around an hour later, Naruto finishes his last lap around the training ground, finishing his warm-up for the day, extremely exhausted by it. Naruto slowly walks up to the tree where Kakashi was sitting in. I'm done, Kakashi-sensei, Naruto says, tiredly watching Kakashi close his book and jump down right in front of him. Kakashi looks and sees how tired Naruto is, realizing a 4-year-old just completed this type of warm-up in only an hour. He was very impressed. That was pretty quick. It only took you an hour to complete your warm-up, Kakashi says. It's because I am awesome, Naruto states, punching the air. Well, since you're done with your morning warm-up, you will now meditate, Kakashi says, knowing Naruto is about to shout. What? I thought I was going to become stronger, Naruto shouts. Kakashi looks at Naruto sternly. You have to find your chakra source first, and push it out, to unlock your chakra. They would have done this in the academy your first year there, but you're being put in a class already in its 4th year, so you need to do this first to get anything done, Kakashi states to a now grumbling Naruto. Alright, I'll do it, Kakashi-sensei, Naruto says, sitting down to start his meditation. Closing his eyes, he starts searching for his chakra pool, while Kakashi just leans against the tree reading his book to wait for Naruto to finish. 30 minutes later, Kakashi felt chakra burst and looks up from his book, lifting his hayate off his left eye to see what was going on. he saw chakra flowing out of Naruto trying to get used to Naruto's chakra coils. Once the chakra flare dissipated, Kakashi put his Hayate back down over his left eye, while watching Naruto slowly open his eyes and stand up. "I did it, Kakashi-sensei," Naruto says, jumping up for joy. Kakashi puts his book away and walks up to Naruto. "What's next, Kakashi-sensei?" Naruto asks once he calmed down. Kakashi thought about it for a moment, then grabbed a leaf off a tree and handed it to Naruto. "Why did he give me a leaf?" Naruto thought, staring at the leaf in confusion. "You will be doing the first exercise of chakra control. To get better control of your chakra, you have to get the leaf to stay attached to your forehead for at least 10 minutes before I will even think you're ready to move on to anything else," Kakashi says. Naruto tries putting the leaf to his forehead while putting chakra into the leaf so that it would stick, but no luck, it falls off 2 seconds later. "This is pointless. How is this supposed to help me to become a great ninja?" Naruto asks. "Once you get this down, you will be able to do basic jutsu and be able to do harder chakra control exercises, making you lose less chakra on jutsu when you start learning jutsu," Kakashi replies. "I get it, I'll keep trying," Naruto says, trying to stick the leaf to his forehead only using chakra again. Kakashi sees this and leaves to go to the library to get some books on history and basic shinobi rules, also some mini chakra exercises. 20 minutes later, Naruto started to get the exercise down, so an hour later when Kakashi appeared in front of him. Naruto had the leaf stuck to his forehead, so Kakashi walks forward to Naruto. "Looks like you completed the exercise, Naruto," Kakashi says, handing the new scroll he got with the library books in it to Naruto. Naruto, while standing up, takes the leaf off his head and accepts the scroll from Kakashi. "What's this for, sensei?" Naruto asks. "That scroll there has books on history and on shinobi laws, and many chakra exercises to learn, so study up on them an hour a night, until you enter the academy. It will catch you up with your classmates," Kakashi says. "How do I get the books out?" Naruto asks, opening the scroll. "All you got to do is put a little bit of chakra into one of the seals in the book, then a book'll pop out. Also, to put it back in place, you set the book on the seal and pour a bit of chakra into the seal again, the book'll disappear," Kakashi states, watching Naruto try taking the book out and putting it back in, after Naruto slipped the scroll into his pocket. "Now what, Kakashi-sensei?" Naruto asks. "We will practice kenjutsu for the rest of the day now," Kakashi says, pulling out 2 wooden swords for a scroll, holding on to one and tosses one to Naruto, who caught it, eager to begin. "Attack me however you like, and I will help you. You will have your own style once we are done here with your training in 2 weeks, so attack me in different maneuvers so I can find a good kenjutsu style for you," Kakashi says. Naruto then got into a random stance he felt comfortable in, and then he takes 2 steps forward, then bursts out running at Kakashi, while Kakashi just stands there waiting for Naruto to reach him to begin his lesson. Naruto jumps forward with a vertical slash starting at Kakashi's midsection, but Kakashi takes a step back, bringing his sword down and swings it, taking out Naruto's legs out from under him. Kakashi jumps 10 feet back, getting back into his stance. "Keep your legs and feet more firm and apart so that something like that'll not happen again," Kakashi says, watching Naruto get up and getting back into his stance, while moving his legs and feet farther apart, charging again. "I'm going to get you this time, sensei," Naruto says, determined, closing in on Kakashi. Kakashi brings up his sword, swings it slightly to the side, while dodging to the right, hitting Naruto right in the arm, then kicks Naruto in the gut and sends him skidding across the ground. "Your arm, bring it closer to the front of you so that you can guard and attack whenever you need to switch," Kakashi says, seeing Naruto get back up and fix the problem he just addressed. "Now come again," Kakashi says. Naruto shot forward again, but this time he chooses to come in lower to try to get past Kakashi's guard. It didn't work. Naruto gets hit in the face and then side, sending him skidding once again across the ground. Naruto gets up again. Team 6, Training Ground 6. Hayate, Jin, and Miko arrive at Training Ground 6 at 7, just like they planned, so that they could prepare for the test at 8. They sat down in the grass field, but they didn't know that most of the forest was already covered in traps, and the field they were in had similar traps prepared. She was sitting in a tree looking at his team, knowing about their plans since yesterday, so he set this up to be their test of teamwork. "So Hayate, what's the plan?" Jin asks Hayate, who was thinking what to do. Why don't we set up some traps in the area? Because most likely the test will be a battle between us against our sensei so that it will give us an advantage over him, Miko says, shocking Hayate and Jin because she never talked that much before and the plan was really good. That is a really good idea, Miko, Hayate said, smiling at her. Where should the traps go though? Jin asks. How about Jin, you lay the traps in the forest with Miko, while I will lay a couple traps here in the field, Hayate says, standing up, knowing they only had an hour to work on the traps before their sensei got there. Okay then, let's get to work, Jin said, running off into the forest with Miko to set up traps. Hayate starts walking around the training field trying to find the perfect areas to lay traps for their sensei. Then he looked down, hearing a click coming from beneath his foot. Multiple little fires appearing around him, making little hissing sounds. Hayate's eyes widen. Exploding tags. Hayate thought, cowering with a big tree branch off to the side a second before it went off. Boom! The entire clearing went up in a blaze, shaking from the massive explosion. That was a laid trap, but who set it up? Hayate thought, walking back into the clearing, although a bit slowly, making sure there were no more traps. Miko. Jin. They just entered the forest, jumping from branch to branch. Where should we set up the first trap? Jin asks Miko, who was looking around. Right there, Miko says, landing on the forest floor, with Jin following. Why here? Jin asks. This path leads to the forest entrance. It will be a good trap to lead him to, Miko says, starting to set up a tripwire kunai launcher's trap, with the trees as a cover point to cover the launchers. Good idea, Jin states, helping by setting some launchers in random positions to the tripwire. They finished the trap, but then an explosion rocketed the forest, making the whole ground shake, throwing Miko right onto her own trap, making her eyes widen, having no time to react. Jin launches forward and dives forward while taking both of them out of the way, landing a couple of feet away. What was that explosion? Jin asks. They heard laughing, then they both blacked out. Hayate got back to where he was in the clearing before and saw how bad the area looked. I definitely would have died if I was hit by that, Hayate thought. He heard laughing, so he turned around and he saw Shi-sensei laughing. Did you do this, sensei? I could have died, Hayate shouted at him. You could have, but you didn't. Now the test truly begins, she said, smiling evilly. What do you mean, sensei? Hayate asked. I mean what I said. The test is that you have to save your two teammates from the area that I have set up. If you are able to get them out of there, then you three-'ll have to fight me to pass your genin test and start getting missions, she stated, appearing in front of Hayate, punching him in the gut, knocking him out. She placed and knocked out Hayate in a small clearing within the forest so he can start the test. She vanishes in a swirl of leaves after. Around an hour later, Hayate woke up, getting in a sitting position. Why did sensei do that? Was it to test me in trying to find my teammates in the forest while lost myself? Hayate asked himself, standing up, while starts to run to the denser part of the woods. Jin, Miko. They were both now awake, but they were trapped, tied to a tree using chakra wire, so they couldn't get free. What's going on? How did we get up here? Jin shouted. I think it was sensei. I mean, we are not dead or captured by enemy ninja, so this must be his test, Miko says. I guess we have to rely on Hayate to help us out and rescue us from up here, Jin says, sounding dejected. I hope Hayate can. I mean, look at this area. It's completely covered in razor wire, and most likely some of them are trip wires as well, Miko stated, trying to figure out why their sensei made the test so extreme. Hayate will save us. He would never leave his friends behind, so I say I give him a little help in finding us, Jin says, making a bird call only Hayate knew about. Miko just nods at Jin. Hayate was jumping from branch to branch, but then he heard a loud bird call. He realized it's coming from Jin. He made this bird call in the academy. He's trying to tell him where they are at. I'm coming, Jin. Hayate thought, jumping up higher in the forest and farther in, stopping on a branch a good 10 feet from a big tree that Jin and Miko were tied to. What took you so long? Jin says. It's because sensei knocked me out, Hayate stated. I was right. It is a part of sensei's test, Miko says. Be careful, Hayate. You can see that the area around us is covered in razor wire and traps, so proceed slowly, Jin says nervously. Hayate nods his head, slightly sliding his sword out of the sheath, diving forward in between an open area, with nothing there but the trip wire. His leg ripped out of the position while reaching the tree. I'll get you guys free, Hayate told them, flowing chakra to his blade, swinging it forward and cutting through the razor wire, releasing his team. Kunai started to come at them from all directions, so they got into a circle and started knocking the kunai off course. Once the kunai stopped, they jumped back into the forest to exit it. So they made it out of the forest. I better go greet them, she said, appearing from behind a tree. They were almost to the exit. They could feel the breeze from the field hit them, so they picked up speed to get out, missing all the trip wires they pulled out. We are almost out, Jin says happily. I hope there are no more traps, Hayate says. Miko looks forward and just nods to the statement. When they saw the exit coming up, they started to hear hissing sounds coming from all over. The whole forest around them. Many flames started to appear, lighting up the forest. All their eyes widen as they shot forward faster than before. The tags started going off, with the ones farther in going off first. The explosions started getting closer to them. They pushed chakra to their legs and then to their feet, diving out of the forest a good distance away from the forest right when the entrance of the forest exploded. The explosion slowed a lot, but the forest still looked extreme chaos. Thank God. We made it out, Jin said, huffing from what happened. That wasn't so bad, Miko says sarcastically. Well then let me make it harder, she said, walking out of the forest with the flames licking his shirt, making him look evil. They turned to him, scared but getting in defensive stances nonetheless. So you saved them after all, Hayate. I thought you might not because of it being too dangerous, she says to Hayate. I don't care how hard it was to save them. I'm just glad they are my teammates, so I would never leave them behind, Hayate states, while Miko and Jin both nod to agree with him. You guys are a wonderful team, but I have no choice but to pass you, she says with an ire smile, but nonetheless Team 6 is official now. No way. We pass, Jin says, excited, turning to Hayate and Miko. I can't believe it, Hayate says, perplexed. You guys deserve a good rest. It's getting late, so head home, Team 6, and be prepared for your first mission tomorrow, she says, disappearing in a swirl of leaves, and Team 6 turns start their trek home, happy that they were finally a team. Naruto. I still can't hit you, Kakashi-sensei, Naruto says tiredly while back on the ground again from another beat down. It's been a long day, Naruto, but you only just began your training, so I don't expect you to be able to even get close to touching me for a while, Kakashi says, taking his wooden sword, sealing it back up, letting Naruto keep his. Naruto slowly stands up, but clearly exhausted from the day. Are we done for the day? Naruto asks, feeling really tired from getting beaten up for most of the day. Yes, Naruto, you may head home now, Kakashi says, watching Naruto turn to walk away, but drops onto the grass, falling unconscious. Kakashi walks up to Naruto's body and lifts him up and starts to disappear in a swirl of leaves to take him home. You're going to be strong one day, Naruto, and you will get the respect you deserve from everyone of the villagers, just like you want, Kakashi thought. It's only 2 in the morning, why can't I go back to sleep? Naruto asks himself, knowing he had to get up in 5 hours for his first day at the academy, so he rolled over onto his side, trying to fall back to sleep but failing to do so. Damn it, Kakashi-sensei, waking me up at 4 every day for the past 2 weeks. Now I can't sleep in later, Naruto thought, grumbling, slowly pulling his covers off himself and sliding out of bed to get a shower. After he got a nice cool shower, trying to wake his body up so he could practice some kenjutsu before heading towards the academy. Naruto walked to his dresser, putting on a pair of black Anbu-style shinobi pants and a black muscle shirt, while he flings his sword onto his back. Turning around, he trudges to the kitchen to make himself something to eat before heading out. He opened up the fridge and got some milk out, shutting the door behind him, walking to the table and setting it down before going to a cabinet that he kept his instant ramen in, pulling one out, filling it up with water and heating it up, then taking it to the table to eat it. I wonder what it will be like to be the only 4-year-old in class, Naruto thought to himself, nervously, knowing that they may make fun of him for being so young, or mad that he skipped 3 years of the academy. It doesn't matter, I will beat every one of them, Naruto shouted, getting pumped for his first day. After Naruto finished his breakfast, he headed out of the apartment, shutting the door behind him to head to training ground 7. Once Naruto left his apartment, he started sprinting down the road, seeing no one out. Because of it being 4 in the morning now, he didn't mind, though it being quiet made it all the much better. I think I should get some new weapons first before I head to the training ground, Naruto thought, turning and heading down a different street to a weapon shop that was open this early. He approached the weapons store seeing the lights on, so opening the door he entered and shutting the shop door behind him. How may I help you? Higurashi the store owner asked Naruto once he entered through the door. I would like a new set of kunai and shuriken, also some chakra weights, so I can up the weight as much as I like, Naruto said to Higurashi, who got up off his stool and went to the back to get the necessary equipment for him. While Higurashi was in the back, Naruto started to look at all the things on the walls. Naruto spots a book on a shelf that caught his eye, so he walks over to the shelf and realizes it's a book of Fuinjutsu. Wow, this looks amazing. I remember Sensei explaining to me what Fuinjutsu does and how it works. I want to try it out, Naruto says to himself, flipping a couple of pages in the book. Higurashi walks back out seeing Naruto looking through a book on Fuinjutsu that he put on the shelf just yesterday. What are you doing, Naruto? Higurashi asks, watching Naruto turn towards him with a giddy look on his face. Naruto walks up to the counter, placing the book on the counter once shut. Could I get this book as well, Higurashi? Naruto says, hoping he would allow it being that he was so young. Sure you can, Naruto. That's only a beginner's guide anyway, so I don't mind. I'm glad you're interested in it though. There are not many Fuinjutsu users out there, Higurashi says, ringing the equipment and the book up. That will be 10,000 ryo, Higurashi states, waiting for Naruto to get the money out. Naruto gets the required money out, giving it to Higurashi. Naruto grabs his equipment and book, taking off his old weights, putting them in one of the scrolls Kakashi gave him, while slipping on the new ones and putting the kunai and shuriken in their respective holster. Thanks, Higurashi-san, Naruto says. No problem, Naruto, just remember, whenever you need something just come to me, I'll be happy to help you out, Higurashi says, watching Naruto bolt through his door and down the road. Now time for some training. The academy starts in 3 hours, so I got plenty of time, Naruto thought to himself, just now entering training ground 7. Naruto walks into the clearing, starting his morning warm-up like he did every morning these past 2 weeks. With Kakashi's torture he called training, but the training helped him in the end. He dropped and began his push-ups, doing 100 instead of 50 now because Kakashi had upped the count only 1 week into his training. Once finished with his 100 push-ups, he moved on to his 100 sit-ups, then his 100 laps around the training ground. When he finished his last lap, he walked back to the center of the clearing, starting to stretch when a dog-naked Anbu appeared in front of him in a swirl of leaves. What are you doing here, Kakashi-sensei? Naruto asks, shocked to see him here, since the 2 weeks were over. For one, I'm here because this is usually where we have been training for the last 2 weeks, so I knew you all be here because I have been waking you up at 4 the past 2 weeks, so your body is used to it by now and wakes up on its own now at this time, Kakashi says, explaining it to Naruto. I should beat you up for that, Kakashi-sensei. I couldn't get any extra sleep this morning. I'll probably be falling asleep in class today, so thanks for setting my body on this routine, Naruto says, grumbling about stupid senseis. You'll be fine. You will be able to stay awake all day. I mean, you were doing it in our training sessions, so you can do it during the academy as well, Kakashi says. I hope, but what are you doing here, sensei? Naruto asks again. I am here to wish you luck, even though you don't need it because you know most of the things the academy teaches, but also I am here to train you some more in Kenjutsu before I leave on my mission and before you head to the academy. Kakahi explains, unsealing a wooden sword, while Naruto does the same. They both get into stances, preparing for the spar. Hey, Kakahi-sensei, good thing you have a mask, so I don't see your shocked face. Hen I kick your, Naruto says, smirking, charging forward. Well, maybe you're right, but most likely you will miss my grin when I knock you down again, Kakashi says, back charging forward to meet him halfway. Naruto came up but ducked quickly from a swing from Kakashi, who followed it up, bringing his knee up to try and knee Naruto in the face, but Naruto brings up his left arm, guarding his face but still sliding back quite a bit because of his tiny frame compared to Kakashi's. Damn it, Naruto thought, jumping forward, swinging his sword diagonally. Kakashi brings his blade up and the two swords clashed. They both started swinging, trying to get the upper hand on the other, but their swords just kept clashing, so neither got any ground on the other. He has really improved quite a bit in these last 2 weeks, even though I'm only going about 5% on him, but he still is really good for a 4-year-old, Kakashi thought, blocking another swing from Naruto. Kakashi starts pushing Naruto farther and farther back, using about 10% of his strength now. Naruto jumps up and over a swing from Kakashi, coming down on him with an axe kick, but a second before it connected, Kakashi leans back and grabs Naruto's ankle with his left hand, swinging him around, throwing him into a tree about 20 feet away. Okay Naruto, that is enough for right now, I need to get going. I'm about 3 hours late by now, Kakashi says, sealing the wooden sword back up, watching Naruto stand up shakily after the collision with the tree, sealing his wooden sword away as well. So you're using me as an excuse for being late now? Naruto asks. Yep. Though I think you may need to use me as an excuse as well, since you only got about 2 minutes to make it to the academy before you're late. Yane, Kakashi says, vanishing in a swirl of leaves to go meet his team at the gates of Konoha. What? Naruto shouted out, looking at the sun for a moment, then realizing Kakashi was right, grabbing his sword and strapped it to his back while running to the academy. I think I will use Sensei as an excuse since he is the one that made me late, Naruto thought, running down the street to the academy. Academy. Where are you, Naruto? Asuhi thought, standing in front of the classroom, which began around 10 minutes ago. Alright class. Pull out your TET books so we can go over the things that will be on the test next week, Asuhi announced to the class. Sensei. I thought you were supposed to get an student today, Yugao asked Asuhi, waiting for an answer. Asuhi contemplated whether or not to tell the claw that Naruto is not here yet. The new student is not here yet, so we will continue the day's lessons until he arrives, then in which case the day shall change slightly after that, Asuhi-sensei explained. Why would the schedule change due to a new student? Wouldn't it stay the same and the new student would start where we left off as well? Yugao asks, while most of the class agreed to the statement. The reason the schedule will change is if the new student that is coming into this class has not caught up with you guys yet, Asuhi says to the confused class. Yugao and most of the class look at Asuhi-sensei beyond confused. What do you mean, Asuhi-sensei? A random student in the front row of the class asked, knowing most of them wanted an answer. The student who is entering our class today is only 4 years old, that's why I'm waiting for him to get here to find out if he caught up with you guys or not, Asuhi-sensei said, watching the class's eyes widen from being told a 4-year-old is being placed in their class. That's when some of the class erupted into angry shouts and some just stayed quiet, wondering why they would let a 4-year-old even in the academy, especially into their class which is already in their 4th year. Why is a 4-year-old coming into our class and even coming into the academy at all for that matter? Don't you have to be 6 to even become a 1st year? Yugao asks Asuhi, clearly confused on the matter. A lot of the class just nod with Yugao's question. Well, in most cases you have to wait till you're 6 to enter into the academy, but the Hokage enrolled him into this class knowing Naruto better than anyone else, so treat him nicely when he arrives. He might be more than you expect him to be, especially from a 4-year-old, Asuhi explained to Yugao and to the class, knowing how mean kids can be sometimes. Now who can tell me, in a situation where you're surrounded by 2 IWA ninja, what type of weapon would be better, a kunai or a shuriken? Asuhi-sensei asked the class. A random student replied with a kunai, because if the rock ninja put rock armor on, it would go further and then a shuriken would. Good answer. That's correct, Asuhi-sensei replied, flipping a page in his book, moving on to the net lesson with the class. Naruto. I'm already 15 minutes late. I got to hurry, Naruto thought, running up to the academy grounds, then flinging the academy doors open, shooting down the hallway. What classroom do I go to? Naruto asks himself, not really sure where to go, so he goes to the teacher lounge, opening the door and heads in. A bunch of Chunin instructors in the room turn to see a 4-year-old walk into the teacher lounge, unsure. Why are you here, kid? This is no place for little kids, a Chunin instructor says, walking up to Naruto, trying to usher him out of the room. He's with me, Matsu said from behind the other Chunin instructor. The Chunin instructor turns and looks at Matsu. Okay then, but you have to talk with him outside in the hall. He is not allowed in here, the Chunin instructor explained to Matsu. Matsu walked around him and led Naruto out of the room into the hall to speak with him. Why are you here, Naruto? Asuhi-sensei was probably expecting you around 15 minutes ago, Matsu asks Naruto. I don't know where the class is. No one told me the room number, so I am kind of lost here, Naruto says, sheepishly scratching the back of his head, hoping Matsu could help tell him the room number. Matsu looked at him, thinking that next time a new student were to come, he would be the one to meet the kid, not Asuhi. Alright then, Naruto, the room number is 27. You ran past it on your way here, Matsu says, laughing lightly at Naruto's face. Thanks, Naruto shouts, starting to run down the hallway to room 27. Wait, Naruto. I'm your other sensei Matsu. I'll be teaching your class in the afternoon after Asuhi sensei finishes up, so see you later, kid. Matsu shouts at Naruto down the hall. Naruto brings his arm up to show that he heard and kept going. He slowed down once he saw the room number coming up. He stops in front of the door and looks at the door, nervously unsure before he then, putting on a smile to look confident, and pushed open the door slowly for dramatic effect for the rest of the class. Asuhi sensei turned toward the door, hearing it creak and start to open slowly to slow for his taste, so Asuhi walked forward, grabbing the handle of the door and flung the door open, making Naruto, who was opening the door, to stumble into the classroom, not ready for the door to open like that. Naruto looks up when he finally righted himself and saw the whole class staring at him, some with angry looks and some looked like they didn't really care. Naruto, what took you so long to get here? You should have been here around 20 minutes ago, Asuhi sensei asked, shutting the classroom door, walking to the front of the class. I got here 15 minutes late because I was sparring with Kakashi sensei, but when I got here I didn't know where to go because you forgot to tell me a room number. Samatsu told me the room number, Naruto explained to Asuhi, while the class was too quiet. Asuhi smacks himself in the forehead for such a blunder on his part, but realized Naruto just said he sparred with Kakashi, making his eyes go wide. Wait, are you talking about Kakashi Hatake? Asuhi sensei asks Naruto. Yep. I was sparring with him from 4 to 7 in the morning, and that's why I was late. He has been my sensei for the past 2 weeks so that I could catch up to your class. He probably used me for an excuse for being late to me, his team as well, Naruto says. Haha, yeah, right. Like someone of that caliber would teach a 4-year-old brat like yourself, a random student from the front row of the class said. Naruto turned to him, sticking his tongue out at him. I know you're jealous, so don't say something you don't mean, you fag-looking idiot, Naruto replied, smiling. The kid jumped forward over his desk to try and strangle the little kid, but Asuhi sensei grabbed the kid by the top of his shirt and lifted him off the ground. Now don't be attacking fellow classmates, unless in a spar, and even then during a spar. The spar will be a fair and nice fight, not trying to kill the other, Asuhi explains, putting the kid back in his seat who grumbled for not getting the chance to strangle Naruto. While this is going on, Yugao in the back row was staring wide-eyed because realizing that this is that kid who ran into her before. When I said maybe we will see each other around that day, I didn't think something like this would be happening, Yugao thought to herself. Yugao looked at her fellow classmates, seeing that most of them were angry because Naruto would be in their class, but she got up put of her seat seeing Naruto talking to Asuhi about if he caught up with the class yet, and Naruto replied yes, so Yugao walked up to them. Hey Naruto, how have you been? Yugao asks, walking up to him. Naruto turns and looks at her, smiling with a little blush on his. He's really cute. I didn't realize that before he ran into me, Yugao thought, gaining a light blush herself. Oh. Hey Yugao. I have been good. How you have been? It's nice to see you in this class too, Naruto says, trying to hide his blush from her, while scratching the back of his head. I'm really good, Naruto. I didn't know that you would be the one coming into the class, and I still can't believe you're younger than us by 6 years old. Do you think you can handle it? Yugao asked Naruto, a concerned look on her face. I'll be fine, Yugao. You don't know everything about me. I'll show you how strong I am, Naruto says, determined to prove it her the most, but also prove it to the class as well. Asuhi just stares at the two of them, who were interacting with each other really well. Just ask me for help if you need it then. Okay Naruto, Yugao says, smiling while walking back to her seat so that Asuhi can introduce Naruto to the class. I'll do that. Thanks Yugao, Naruto says, smiling, while some of the boys in the class grew even angrier at the interaction between Naruto and Yugao, but Naruto didn't let it bother him, he just ignored them. Naruto, go ahead and introduce yourself to the class, then they will do the same for you once you are done with your introduction, Asuhi sensei explained. Yes sensei. My name is Naruto Uzumaki. My likes are training and practicing my kenjutsu. My hobbies are finding new ways to improvise my fighting and training. I don't really hate anything besides the people who can't look underneath the underneath, and my dream is to be the best ninja ever, Naruto says to the class, pumping his fist into the air. The class starts to introduce themselves one by one. Once it got to Yugao, she stood up. My name is Yugao Azuki. My likes include kenjutsu and hanging out with friends. My hobbies are training in my family sword techniques and friends. I dislike people who don't put much effort into being a ninja like fangirls. They don't deserve to be a ninja. My dream is to be the best Kenjutsu master, Yugao says, sitting back down, while Naruto's eyes are wide from the Kenjutsu part. She's nice and pretty and likes Kenjutsu just like me. She's amazing, Naruto thought to himself. When Yugao was done, Naruto started to look at all the faces of the people in the room. Most of them looked angry, but another person stands up with no malice against him, introducing himself like Yugao. My name is Naio Terumi. My likes are hanging with friends and coming to class. My hobbies are training and trying different weapons out. My dislikes are when people make fun of me or making fun of someone else. My dream is to be a hunter ninja, Naio says, sitting down afterwards. So about 4 or 5 people total don't mind me in the room. Well, at least Yugao and Naio will be good people to get to know better. Still though, I am going to change their views on me before I graduate from the academy, Naruto thought, determined to show what he was made of. Naruto was broken out of his thoughts when Asuhi-sensei turned to him and asked him where he would like to sit. Naruto started to look around the room to find a good seat but stopped looking around when he heard a voice. Naruto, you can sit here if you want, Yugao says from the back row, pointing to the seat by her. Thanks, Yugao, Naruto says, happily walking to the back and taking the seat beside her. No problem, Naruto. I finally found someone interesting to talk to, Yugao says to Naruto, in which he turns his head forward to the front, trying to hide a blush that appeared on his face. They turn and look at Asuhi, who just started the net lesson. Alright class, since Naruto does not need any time to catch up, we will start where we left off, Asuhi states, walking up to Naruto and handing him a textbook so he can follow along. They continued lessons throughout the morning. Team 6. Team 6 just exited the Hokage Tower, heading towards a civilian house which they were to paint a fence for some old guy for their 10th D ranked mission. They arrived at the house all grumbling on high. Did they have to do chores? They were ninja. Sensei, do we have to do this? Jin asked, picking up a brush grudgingly, not wanting to do it. Yes you do. And you can't stop till you are done, because even though these missions seem pointless, but they're not. They still help pay for things in the village and I don't have to do it, so have fun, she says, jumping into a big tree in the yard to get some sleep till they were done with the job. That's no fair. Sensei gets to sleep where we end up doing all the work, Jin says, starting to paint the fence. Don't worry, Jin, let's just get to work and finish this as fast as we can so we can be done for the day, Hayate says, looking at Miko for reassurance. Right, Miko? Hayate asks. I guess so, but this still sucks, Miko says, picking up a brush herself and starting to paint the fence. 3 hours later they finished, but Hayate and Jin were covered in paint because they got pissed at each other for not being done yet. We are finally done, Hayate says, sounding exhausted but ready to finish the mission. Yeah, but you two look more painted the fence, and that's saying something, Miko says, laughing. Laugh it up, Jin says, throwing half the bucket of paint into Miko's face. Miko got angry and started to kick Jin in the balls repeatedly for getting the paint in her hair. Hayate just looks on, guarding himself just in case Miko turns on him. She then jumps out of the tree, hearing Jin screaming in pain, and walking up to Miko while pulling her back away from Jin before he makes him unable to have kids. Are you guys finished? She asked them, in which Hayate and Miko nod while Jin lie on the ground in pain. Okay. Then Hayate and Miko meet me in the Hokage Tower in 10 minutes, she says, picking up Jin and taking him to the hospital to get checked on. Once they entered the Hokage Tower, they got their mission pay from the Hokage, who then turned to she, asking him if he would like his team to do another mission. She just nodded and took a scroll, turning to his team. Okay guys, I got another mission for us. Even without Jin it will get completed, me know it, she states, smiling. Is it AC rank this time? Hayate says, hopeful. Nope, it's another D rank 1, she said, laughing, walking out of the Hokage building. Hayate and Miko just turned to each other. No, they both said, walking slowly out of the Hokage building. Naruto. When lunchtime came around, most of the kids stayed away from Naruto. Naruto sat down outside on a bench and began to eat his lunch. Yugao sees this and walks up and sits down next to him, placing her lunch net to her. Don't worry about them, Naruto, they're just jealous that you're only 4 and are in the same class as them, Yugao states, looking at Naruto. I know, Yugao, but I wish they would just get over it. I mean, why make enemies when you can make friends? Naruto says, taking a couple bits out of his sandwich. Yugao looks at him happily in finding someone just as smart as herself, while they both return to eating their lunch together in silence the rest of lunchtime. Once they finished, they headed in along with the rest of the class. When they got seated, Matsu-sensei walked in through the door and stood in the front of the room. Now time for a henge test before we head outside and do sparring for the rest of the time. No, line up and begin, Matsu-sensei says, leaning against his desk. While watching the students come up and get in line, he spots Naruto at the end of the line and waves to him with Naruto waving back. He turned back, and when everyone were ready, they began the test, one person after another. About half of students failed the test so far. Then Neo walked forward and got a perfect on his test. I'm going to get a perfect just like Nio because I know everything about the henge, Naruto thought, wanting to do the jutsu so bad. Good luck, Yugao, Naruto says to Yugao for encouragement, while Yugao walked forward making a perfect henge of Matsu-sensei, then walking back into line standing near Naruto. Naruto slowly walked forward after being called. Everyone turned towards him, staring at him, thinking that there was no way a 4-year-old was going to pass this test. This is here I start proving that I belong in this upper class than a lower class, Naruto thought, performing the necessary hand signs for the henge. All the students looked on as the smoke cleared from the jutsu, faded, looking as the exact replica of the 4th Hokage. No way, a random student proclaimed, stuttering. They couldn't believe Naruto completed the henge. Then Naruto turned back, dispelling the henge. Good job, Naruto. You pass, Matsu says, writing on his clipboard while telling the students to head outside with him for sparring practice for the rest of the class. Naruto and Yugao walked outside together, talking about random things, trying to pass the time. Once they all got out back on the academy training ground, Matsu turned to them, randomly picking opponents to face off to get good idea on everyone's taijutsu as and what they need to improve on. Naruto, you will be pairing with Kenzie, Matsu says, watching them get into their fighting stances. Matsu-sensei, can I use my sword in this battle, or no? Naruto asks, looking at Matsu. Normally yes, Naruto, but I want to get a good record on all the students' taijutsu so I can see the problems with their taijutsu and help them fix it, Matsu explains, stepping back. Yugao gets closer to the fight. Beat him up, Naruto. He needs a good beating, he is too, so show him that you're better, Yugao says. Naruto just nods and turns to face his opponent, with a flat palm out facing Kenzie and a half fist pulled back, bending both his knees slightly, waiting for Kenzie to come. Naruto did not have to wait long. Kenzie charged forward at him, thinking it will be an easy win for him. All I need is one punch, Kenzie shouts, turning most of the class to their match, thinking Kenzie would. Besides 3 people, they were Yugao, Nio and Matsu, who thought Naruto would win the match. Jumping forward, aiming a punch at Naruto's face, Ho just ducked, making Kenzie's eyes widen. Naruto slammed his half-palm fist into Kenzie's stomach, making him lean forward, before Naruto followed it up by slamming his open palm into Kenzie's chin, sending him flying across the training ground, landing hard on the ground unconscious from being hit like he did. Naruto got a couple cheers, walking over to stand near Yugao. Naruto wins, Matsu says, marking it down on his clipboard. The time of the fight, and Naruto ended the fight, telling another teacher to take Kenzie to the school nurse. Naruto and Yugao sit in the grass to talk about things. You did good, Naruto. That fight gave you really good marks, Yugao says, congratulating Naruto on his win. Thanks, Yugao beat the person you face just as good, Naruto says. Don't worry, I will, Yugao says, smirking. Yugao's name was called, then Sashi got up, then waving to Naruto as Yugao walked forward, getting into a stance. She had to fight Nio, who also just got into a stance himself across from Yugao. After 3 minutes of fighting, Yugao was declared the winner by knockout, knocking out Nio with a punch to the solar plexus. When Yugao's match ended, the sounded in the academy indicating class just ended, so everyone started to leave and rush home or greet their parents out front. Good match, Yugao, Naruto says to her while they walk down the road away from the academy together. Thanks, Naruto, but I got to go home now, so see you tomorrow, Yugao says, running off, smiling at him. See you tomorrow, Naruto shouts to a now vanishing Yugao, heading home, him tired from the long day. Once he reached his apartment door, he opens the door and turns on the light, dropping off his sword in front of his dresser after closing his door to the apartment. I'm going to take a nice long hot shower, Naruto thought, heading to his kitchen to get a bite to eat first. When he walked through the doorway, a cut appeared on his cheek. Then a black cloaked figure jumped down in front of him, making Naruto jump back, slamming his head off the edge of the doorway. What the hell? Naruto thought, scared, thinking someone is trying to kill him, but then the figure grabbed a hold of the side of the cloak. Naruto got more scared, thinking it to be a weapon, until it got pulled away, revealing it to be Kakashi, his sensei. How did you get in and why are you here? Naruto shouts once his fear vanished, standing up. I'm here to tell you. Get your things, it is time for training and don't complain, Kakashi says, chuckling. Naruto got his sword, realizing he had no choice since he knew Kakashi would drag him to Training Ground 7 if he had to. Okay, let's, Kakashi says, disappearing in a swirl of leaves heading for Training Ground 7, leaving a pissed off Naruto. Naruto's eyes widen. Don't leave me here, you stupid sensei, Naruto shouts, opening his apartment door, shutting it behind him, running out into the night. Next week I graduate from the academy and finally become a full-fledged ninja, Naruto thought happily in the grass of Training Ground 7, enjoying the afternoon after getting out of the academy that day. He slowly got up, looking around at the damage he had done on the wooden dummies with his sword. I got to keep training. I cannot let up. I have got to prove myself when I graduate next week, Naruto thought, performing his sword stances that he came up with, but also with some help from Kakashi supervising what he came up with. Team 6. They entered through Konoha's gates, heading towards the Hokage Tower to report that they had completed another C-rank mission. They took their time walking down the street to the tower because they have not been back in so long. I'm glad to be back. Once you leave for a mission, it's exciting to be coming back home once the mission is complete. You really start to miss this place, it's really peaceful, Hayate says to his team, continuing to walk with them to the Hokage Tower. I know what you mean, we have never really been gone from Konoha for so long, it is our home, but we became ninjas so that we could protect our home and everyone within its walls, so that they can live in peace without fear, Miko replied, continuing to walk beside Jin and Hayate while their sensei went ahead to the tower. They were still looking around, but then realizing that they should now hurry to the Hokage Tower to report before she got pissed and started to use them for target practice once again. We got to hurry, Jin shouts, starting to run forward faster to the tower, with Hayate and Miko running faster as well to get to the tower sooner. Once they reached the Hokage Tower, they ran up the stairs as fast as possible and ran to the Hokage's door and started to knock. Come in, Sandame said from behind the door. Team C opened the door once they had permission and walked in, closing the door behind them. What took you guys so long? Were you missing the village that much, and maybe you were also missing my reflex training, and if that is the case, I think we should do that all day tomorrow, she says, smiling evilly to Team 6, of who were seating bullets because of what their sensei implied. So be prepared for the worst, just in case, she says, vanishing in a swirl of leaves, letting them think on what he said. After Team 6 watched their sensei vanish, leaving them there, they turned back to facing the Hokage again. Team 6, you will be getting a new mission in 3 days to give you a little break from doing so many missions, so you're dismissed, the Sandame said to Team 6, who turned around and walked out of the tower talking to each other. I'm going home guys, see you tomorrow, Jin says, running off down the street heading home, while Hayate and Miko continued to talk for a bit, before Miko had to go as well. I guess I should head home as well, Hayate thought, running to his house because the sun was beginning to go down and his parents were expecting him home soon from the mission. Naruto. After Naruto finished working with his sword once again, he went to the center of the training ground to practice Shushin. He picked it up when watching a Chunin ninja practice it in the training ground right next to this one. Where hold I appear at? Naruto asked himself, looking around the training ground, deciding to Shushin in front of a tree that was a good 30 feet away. Starting to perform the hand seals, he took a deep breath. I hope this works, Naruto whispered to himself, vanishing from sight, appearing about an inch in front of the tree, making him smash his head into the tree, making him fall back unconscious from the hit. Around an hour later, Naruto woke up, slowly standing still in pain from the impact with tree. Damn, that hurt, Naruto thought, leaning on the tree for a moment to get the dizziness to go away. Naruto being Naruto, he walked back to the center of the clearing again to try it one more time, trying to visualize himself a couple of feet away from the tree this time. This time when he made the hand signs and vanished, he appeared a couple feet in front of the tree. He jumped for joy after. Once he completed Shushin, he started to practice the Academy 3 jutsu, which were Henge, Kawari, and Bunshin, but not being able to do the Bunshin but completing the other 2 jutsus perfectly just like before. Even after I learned tree walking and water walking with Kakashi-sensei, I am still not able to make a good enough bunshin to pass the graduation test, Naruto said to himself while sitting down and began to ponder if he could learn a different clone technique to pass the test with. I will ask Gigi tomorrow if I can learn a different clone technique for the test, Naruto thought, determined to get a clone jutsu down before the graduation test next week. Getting up, Naruto got back to work on his kenjutsu, because it will be his main skill in battle besides the fuinjutsu he started learning about. Naruto walked up to a new training dummy that he didn't slice up yet. Unsheathing his sword, he began a dance of majestic sword play on the dummy. Once the dummy was cut up enough and when he thought his kenjutsu didn't need no more practice that night, he began his trek back to the village, sheathing his sword back in its holster, leaving the training ground. Naruto ran to the main street of Konoha from the training ground while staring up at the stars in the sky as he went, but when he tilted his head forward to look back in front of him, he spotted a mysterious guy climbing out the window of the Hokage Tower and started rushing down the street he was on, so Naruto dove into a alleyway to the right, looking out from the shadows to watch the guy go by. The guy runs right past the entrance of the alleyway, making Naruto's eyes widen at the type of forehead protector the ninja that ran past had on and one of the scrolls from Gigi's office he saw one time. No way. That headband was from Iwa. What is an Iwa ninja doing in Konoha, besides taking that scroll from the tower? Naruto thought, exiting the alleyway and started to follow the Iwa ninja down the street. The Iwa ninja turns off the main road, running into a forest further down a side road. Naruto notices that Iwa ninja just entered training ground 3. Naruto didn't know why he would go there but following anyway. I can't let him get away with that scroll, no one knows it was taken, so I have to get it back. Naruto thought, adding chakra to his legs to catch up to the Iwa ninja, while he thought of a plan to make sure he got the scroll back. Once Naruto exited out the back of the forest of training ground 3, he saw the Iwa ninja start using chakra in the bottoms of his feet and legs, getting ready to jump over the wall of Konoha when he got closer. I have to wait for the best moment, and that is when he is already in the air. Then I will kawari myself with the scroll, Naruto thought, waiting for the right moment to come. When the Iwa ninja jumped up, getting closer to the top of the wall, Naruto appeared on the Iwa ninja's back, making the scroll disappear out of view. Noticing the weight change on his back after Naruto appeared on his back in replace of the scroll, Naruto had no choice but to jump off the ninja and run back into the forest while picking up the scroll off the ground and attaching it to his back like his sword. The Iwa ninja got pissed at being fooled by a little kid, so he jumped back down to the ground. Get back here, you brat! The Iwa ninja shouted, running back into the forest after Naruto, in which they came. Naruto saw the ninja catching up to him, so Naruto started to pump chakra to his legs and started to pick up speed. Naruto got faster, but the Iwa ninja was still catching up to him, but much more slowly now though. When Naruto shot past a big tree close to the entrance of the forest, Naruto kawaried with a branch 20 feet away to get some distance between him and the Iwa ninja who just appeared where he was standing moments ago. Brat, I am going to kill you nice and slow for making me be here longer in this dump than I had to. The Iwa ninja said, pulling out a kunai and rushing forward at Naruto, who stayed back knowing that the Iwa ninja didn't think much of him, so Naruto grabbed a kunai, wrapping it in an uploading tag. Naruto drew 6 more plain kunai to mask the exploding one. Naruto threw them at the charging Iwa ninja. Take this, you pig-headed, ugly bastard, Naruto shouted, throwing the kunai slower than he usually would to make the ninja believe that he sucked real badly. Is this it? You suck even for an academy student. You should not become a ninja if you get the chance, because I'm going to kill you. The Iwa ninja said, stopping and takes a step to the side to let 3 of the kunai pass by. While he deflected 3 more, he lets the last kunai stick in the ground in front of him, believing it to be bad aim from the kid. That was pathetic. Iwa Genin and even Iwa Academy students could take you out in one hit. Iwa ninja taunted Naruto while Naruto just looked on, thinking that the guy must be really stupid. You don't realize that I am barely trying, or that I am better than I put myself out to be. I mean, come on, I am not retarded, but I think you are, Naruto says, pointing to the kunai in front of the Iwa ninja, making him look down to see an exploding tag on the kunai in front of him. His eyes widened, realizing the danger he is in. He takes a step back right when the tag went off right in front of him, killing him instantly. The Iwa ninja's body fell to the ground, missing part of his lower body. Also, the burn marks were over 50% of the ninja's body, spreading out onto the grassy area from around the body. Naruto turned away looking disgusted with how the body looked. The burn marks were all over and the guts were spilling out from the body, but nonetheless Naruto picked up the scroll, attaching it to his back while grabbing the shirt of the dead ninja, starting to drag the body to the Hokage tower, knowing the body was too heavy to carry, but he had to tell Gigi about the incident that happened here. Naruto started to jog once hitting the main street of Konoha because he did not want many to see him dragging a dead body around. He caught sight of ninja going out in different directions. Once reaching the stairs to the Hokage building, and walking up them, he reached the Hokage's door with the dead body behind him. Before Naruto could knock on the door, he spotted the secretary jump up and run out of the building. After seeing him with the dead body behind him, Naruto just shrugs his shoulders, turning to face the door again. Naruto knocked on the door. Being told to enter, he entered the office, dragging the body in with him while shutting the door behind him. Once the Sandaime spotted him and the body, he jumped up and ran up to Naruto. "Are you okay, Naruto?" Sandaime asked, looking over Naruto for any injuries on Naruto from the fight, he presumed. "I'm okay, Gigi. The Iwa ninja didn't stand a chance. He didn't realize I am better than what I was showing, so he underestimated me. That's why he went boom, but I didn't think he would fall for it though. Not like that anyway," Naruto explained to the Sandaime, who looked at Naruto impressed by him because defeated a Chunin. Although Naruto was underestimated, it still was pretty good for an academy student. "What should I do with this guy?" Naruto asks the Sandaime, innocently pulling the body out in front of him, making the Sandaime call out Tiger from the corner of the room to dispose of the body. Tiger appeared, hauling the body up, then vanishing. Once the body vanished with Tiger, the Sandaime led Naruto to a chair in front of his desk, letting Naruto sit down while he walked back around his desk and sat down himself to get comfortable. "Are you okay, Naruto? That type of killing looked pretty bad," the Sandaime said, clearly concerned for Naruto and his mental state. "Yeah, I'm fine, Gigi. I had no choice but to kill him. If I didn't kill him, he would have killed me and got away. Also, he would have caught me if I tried to run. He was too fast. So I thought I might as well save the scroll and take him out for the good of the village," Naruto said, emotionless, cause the end result of the body looked horrible once the explosion had ended, and he didn't want the Sandaime to worry about him. "Okay, Naruto, but if you ever need to talk, you know I'm here for you," Sandaime says to Naruto, making sure Naruto understood that he is not alone, making him smile. "I know, Gigi, you're the best," Naruto says, jumping over the Sandame's desk, giving him a big hug for helping him so much. After the hug, Naruto got back in his chair and sat down, taking the scroll of his back, placing it in the Sandame's desk for him to take back. "Is this the scroll that got taken from here?" Sandaime asked Naruto, who just nodded to the question. "Then hold up a second while I go put this back and get something for you that you will find useful," Sandaime says. The Sandaime got up, taking the scroll that Naruto brought back with him to the back storage scroll room, placing it in the room among the others while picking up another scroll that read Kage Bunshin no Jutsu, and walked out of the room with a smaller scroll in hand, while walking back to his desk, sitting back down. "For your efforts of receiving that scroll from that Iwa ninja, you are getting a B rank mission pay. Along with you get to learn the Kage Bunshin no Jutsu from this scroll here, but you have to return it when you're done learning it." "Okay, Naruto," Sandaime says, reaching inside his desk, pulling out an envelope. "Really? I can't believe it. How did you know I couldn't do regular Bunshin?" Naruto asks, giddy with excitement to learn it. "I watch sometimes to make sure you're not hurt, and I found out that you had too much chakra to do a regular Bunshin when you were training the one time. Though I couldn't just hand you this scroll over without a reason. I got a reason now," Sandaime replied, sliding a little envelope over his desk with the B-rank mission money in it, as well as the Kage Bunshin scroll on top of the envelope. Naruto reaches out and picks both up, sliding them into his pocket, deciding then that he needed to stay up all night training to get Kage Bunshin completed soon so that he could concentrate on other things tomorrow. "Come talk to me sometimes, Naruto. You don't see me that much," Sandaime says. "Okay, Gigi, I promise. I will come visit once in a while," Naruto says, standing up and walking to the door after being told that Gigi is going to bed, so he opened the office door to leave. "Just be careful with that jutsu, Naruto. Make sure you read the whole scroll in and out before you try to perform it," Sandaime says, shutting off the office light, following Naruto down the hall to a room, in which the Sandaime stepped into, telling Naruto good night before shutting the door. "I got a new jutsu I can train. I'm going to go train now," Naruto thought, walking away from the closed door, heading down the stairs of the Hokage building out into the streets, still seeing random ninja pass by from time to time. Naruto started to pick up speed down the road to go to the training ground fast to learn the Kage Bunshin. He wanted to learn it so bad, but he didn't realize before it was too late and collided with someone in the street, both falling down from the collision. Naruto slowly got up and walked over to the downed person, realizing it to be Yugao. He put his hand out to her to help her up. Sorry about that, Yugao. I really wasn't paying any attention to where I was going, Naruto says while Yugao took his hand, getting up off the ground, appreciating the help up from the ground. I remember this happening once before, but this time I guess the positions have switched this time around though, Yugao says, laughing lightly from what happened once again. I guess so. You were the one who helped me up the last time, but what are you doing out here this late into the night? Naruto asked Yugao. I am out here going for a walk. Would you like to join me, Naruto? Yugao asked, unsure. Sure, Yugao, would you like to take a walk through the park then, since it gives the best view of the sky there? Naruto asks Yugao, looking at her beauty, realizing he was staring, averted his eyes toward a building to the side away from Yugao, trying to extinguish the blush that appeared on his face before she saw it. I don't mind, Naruto. It's a really nice night tonight. The full moon is out tonight, Yugao says, looking up at the moon for a moment before grabbing Naruto's hand and started to lead him to the park. They were walking through the park, just enjoying the night and just the night time in general because of the stars being out. After they walked around for a bit, they laid in the grass to get a better view of the stars. We are being placed onto teams in a week. If we pass the graduation test though, are you ready for the test, Naruto? Yugao asks. Yeah, I'm ready, Yugao. I am going to pass for sure, and you will too. You are one of the best students at the academy, Naruto says, making Yugao blush from his compliment. They both stayed quiet for a bit, deciding just to relax next to each other under the stars. Yugao, I hope that we will end up being on the same team. You and Naio would make a really good team together, Naruto says to Yugao, who turned her head towards him to answer. We would be the best team out of them all. Our skills and our friendship would make the team great, Yugao replied, turning her head back again to face the shining sky. Naruto just nods to Yugao's answer, staying silent, thinking of a lot of things that are on his mind, one of them being Yugao herself. Hey Naruto. Can I ask you something, Naruto? Yugao asks with a blush on her face. Sure, Yugao, what's up? Naruto asked, tilting his head to the right to look at her. Yugao takes a couple of seconds to ask, unsure if she should ask Naruto or not. I kind of like this boy Hayate, but I am not sure of how to go about it. I mean, I really like him and all. I want to tell him I like him since I have been talking to him these last 2 weeks. Yugao asks Naruto, catching him off guard. Naruto, who on the inside was in turmoil because he just found out the girl he liked has a crush on Hayate, one of the people he liked out of the entire village. He isn't a bad person and he wants Yugao to be happy, so he gave her a reasonable answer, so he turned further towards her. You should tell him how you feel. He is a good person and won't hurt you. I knew him from 2 years ago. So go for it, tell him how you feel when you're ready to tell him. Naruto says, hurting inside from what he just said because he really likes Yugao, not showing much of these emotions on the outside because he didn't want her to worry about him. Do you really think so, Naruto? Do you really think I should try? I really like him and don't want to be turned down by him, Yugao says, defectively lowering her head a little. Don't worry about it, Yugao-chan, you are very beautiful. He would have to be an idiot to turn you down, so don't worry about it so much, just think of the positives that could come about from it, Naruto says, trying to hide his sadness, standing up, having to get out of there before tears start to fall from his eyes. Thank you, Naruto. A happy Yugao says, jumping up to her feet and hugging Naruto like crazy, but the hug didn't last too long before Naruto pulled away from her, making Yugao just stand there confused. I got to go, Yugao. I'll see you tomorrow, Naruto says, running off, unsure of why he felt this much pain. See you tomorrow, Yugao says, waving at him before she left, but heading home to get some sleep, while Naruto ran out of the park to the front gates of Konoha and out into the forest a good distance away before leaning up against a tree, sliding down into a sitting position, beginning to cry. Once his crying slowed down, he heard a rustling coming from a couple trees and bushes further in. He started to hear laughing before he passed out. Naruto appeared in a sewer-like area, wondering what was going on before a giant cage with a seal on it appeared before him, with a creature with glowing red eyes came to the bars of the cage. You worthless flesh bag, why are you crying? You are making yourself look weak and you are making me look weak, the fox-like creature growled out from inside the cage. Who are you? And what are you and how did you get in there? Naruto says to it, standing up slowly, feeling very intimidated by the very large creature in front of him. I am the great Kyuubi no Yoko and you will respect me, boy. Kyuubi says, unleashing some of its red chakra to try and scare Naruto. Naruto though stood deviant through the ordeal of the killing intent that is being sent his way. Where is this though and why are you trapped? I thought you were killed by the Yondaime Hokage. Naruto says to the Kyuubi, walking closer to the cage to get a better look at the Kyuubi. A human can't defeat me. I am a huge mass of chakra without complete form. The reason that you are here with me right now is because this is your mind. The Yondaime sealed me inside. That is why you have massive amounts of chakra, the Kyuubi explained. Naruto's eyes widen from this little bit of information, before taking a step back from the cage. You're lying. Naruto shouts out childishly, not wishing to think that the Kyuubi is inside of him. It's true, you little whelp. This damn seal keeps me from getting out. And if you need proof, push chakra out of your body and look at your stomach. Once you leave here, a seal shall appear, the Kyuubi says, smashing into the bars to prove his point and at the same time trying to get out. So that's why civilians and some ninja keep trying to kill me. They think I am you and that you're still alive, Naruto says, knowing that he himself is the only one keeping the Kyuubi at bay from ripping Konoha apart, but the civilians think otherwise. I'm going to make a deal with you a couple weeks from now, but first I am going to adjust your chakra coils so that it can handle my part of the deal. I am going to propose a plan to you, human. Now get out of here so I can get to work and also to get some sleep. Just don't die. If you die, I die, so I won't let you. If you want to prove to Konoha how strong you are, then get stronger. Maybe then even I may acknowledge you, the Kyuubi says before forcing Naruto out. Naruto woke up wondering about the deal the Kyuubi was talking about, realizing he is in the same place before he passed out, so he stood up and pulled up his shirt, pushing chakra out of his body while a very complex seal appeared on his stomach. Mesmerized by the seal, he then stopped pushing chakra into the seal while pulling his shirt back on all the way. Look what we have here, a little boy wandering the forest by himself. We should show him why he shouldn't be doing this, some guy said from a tree line 50 feet away. Naruto looked up, seeing about 10 guys coming out of the tree line with little daggers, probably wanting to kill him. You guys should leave before you regret your decision of coming any closer, Naruto says, unsheathing his sword from out of the holster off his back, getting into a half-relaxed stance. This little brat thinks he can take all of us on and win. Come on boys, let's show this kid who he is dealing with, one of the bandits said, while most of them started to chuckle. Once they were done, they charged forward with the intent to kill him in cold blood. When the first 3 came upon him, Naruto jumped up, swinging his sword, beheading the first. Then he turned in mid-air and kicked the second in the shin, sending him back a bit. Once Naruto landed, he ducked under a stab from the third coming up and plunging his sword through the third's chest, ripping it out, while the second charged him from behind again, making Naruto jump up and spin kicked him in the side of the head, knocking that bandit out cold. After that bandit fell, he spun around quickly, slashing a deep gash across another, making that bandit drop down dead. Naruto starts taking them down one by one, showing no mercy because he knows he wouldn't get none. When the last one came up, Naruto took his legs out, jumping on top of the bandit, plunging his sword straight down into the heart of the last of the bandits that attacked him before jumping off, walking away from the dead bodies while taking a cloth out, wiping the blood off. After he was done cleaning the blade, he sheathed it while beginning to run back to Konoha. Once he passed the gates of Konoha heading in, he headed to Training Ground 7 to train for a while to get his mind off of many things right now. He entered the grounds, laying his sword on the ground, pulling out the Kage Bunshin scroll and began to read it. The Kage Bunshin is a solid clone jutsu able to obtain memories for the original. You can also use these clones to gain knowledge for you, but making too many of them could kill you or cause mental brain damage that can't be reversed, so be careful when using it. Naruto read the scroll to himself, rolling it back up when he had the hand seals memorized, and began training to learn this jutsu. 4 hours later, Naruto could be seen standing in the middle of about 100 copies of himself before being dispelled, leaving him being the only one left in the field. Yes, I finally learned it. This will come in very handy with certain missions and my training, Naruto thought, ecstatic at the possibilities of the Kage Bunshin. Naruto picked up his sword off the ground and making the hand seals again for the Kage Bunshin. 20 copies appear in front of him. They started to get in the same stance he was in now. Naruto started slashing through them one after another, getting cut up a little bit himself as well. When the last Kage Bunshin dissipated due to being cut in half across its torso, Naruto dropped to the ground exhausted from the training that night. Naruto turned to the sky, noticing the stars were starting to vanish from the sky. The sun's starting to come up. I guess I lost track of time, Naruto softly said to himself, watching the color of the sky change, brightening the sky slightly. I will pass the test next week. I have no choice but to pass, Naruto thought, determined to pass the test. Slowly closing his eyes, not realizing it was happening, falling unconscious in the field peacefully, until Kakashi found him later that day, having to carry Naruto home, grumbling the whole way to Naruto's apartment. I hope Yugao isn't mad at me. I haven't seen her in about a week. I was trying to avoid her to get my emotions in check before I saw her again, Naruto thought, contemplating this while walking down the street to the academy for the test that is being held at the academy. I'm going to pass today, Naruto shouted out, beginning to run so he could get to the academy sooner and to be the first one to arrive. When Naruto arrived at the academy, he rushed right through the academy doors. He ran down the hallway, stopping at a room numbered 27, which has been his classroom for the last 2 years now. He was 6 years old and finally becoming a ninja of the leaf. Naruto slowly opened the door to the classroom, wondering on a couple of things. Seeing no one in the room, he walked up the aisle to the back row of seats and sat down to wait for his senseis and classmates to arrive. So Naruto pulled out his intermediate Fuinjutsu seals book and began to read while time began to tick by. About an hour later, the doors to the classroom opened up and in walked Asuhi and Matsu sensei, closing the door behind them as they walked to the desk and placed their folders down on the desk. Naruto closed his book and set it down on the desk for a bit. Hey senseis, what took you guys so long? Naruto shouted out jokingly, trying to get a rise out of them. Matsu and Asuhi turned toward the voice and caught Naruto sitting in the back row in high heat already. What do you mean, Naruto? We are right on time, you're just really early, Matsu said, smiling at the 6-year-old who joined their class 2 years ago. I thought I would get here early because it is one of the last days I will see this class, Naruto replied sadly, but still happy of becoming a ninja of the leaf in about an hour when they begin the test. We will miss you, Naruto, you have been one hell of a student, just make sure you pass the graduation test, Asuhi sensei says to a smirking Naruto. I will, sensei. The test will be no problem, I'll blow through it and before you know it I will already be a chunin, Naruto says, pumping his fist into the air with determination evident in the way Naruto said it. Well then, Naruto, good luck. Me and Asuhi are going to be the ones to give you guys the test, so show us what you got, Matsu says, walking to the back room to prepare for the test. Asuhi just sits down at the desk, starting to complete some paperwork he had received that morning. Asuhi sensei, I am going to be using a different kind of a bunshin during the test to pass, or do I have to use a regular bunshin? Naruto asked Asuhi sensei, unsure. Asuhi looked up with a confused look, wondering what Naruto meant. It's fine, Naruto, but had other clone techniques do you know besides the regular bunshin? Asuhi asks Naruto. I know the cage bunshin, and I know it because when a ninja tried to steal from the Hokage tower I caught him off guard and saved the skull, then the Hokage let me learn that clone technique, Naruto says to a wide-eyed Asuhi. Bekatsu, Naruto knew an A-rank Kenjutsu. That's amazing, Naruto, the test should be easy for you then, Asuhi states, getting back to work on his paperwork while Naruto picked up his Fuinjutsu book off the desk and began to read the book till the rest of the class got there. After about 30 minutes of waiting, students started to come into the room. Naruto, although reading his book, was paying attention to all who came into the room until Naio stepped into the room. Naruto waved to Naio to come sit in the back with him. Naio walked up the aisle to the back. When he got there, he sat down and Naruto patted him on the back. Good to see you, Naio. You ready to pass the graduation test today? Naruto asks, curiously listening to what his friend has to say about the test. Naio nods, then he put his arm up onto the desk before speaking. The test is going to be simple, Naruto. Me, you and Yugao and maybe some other students in the class have had most of the requirements to pass this test for a while now, Naio states with much conviction, already pulling out a pencil for the written part of the exam, which was sure to come first. Yeah, you're right, I had most of the techniques Don needed to pass the test the first year in this class, Naruto says, thinking about his 2 years he was in this class. Naio turned to him, wondering if Naruto finished the clone jutsu that he had trouble with and asked him to help with. They didn't progress much with his help either, so Naruto had let it go for the time being. So you completed the clone jutsu after all. I thought for sure it would have been impossible, but I guess anything could happen when it comes to you, Naio says, putting his head on the desk tiredly from not getting enough sleep from the night before. I never completed that technique, I got a different clone technique to work, so I don't need that one anymore, Naruto says, happily pulling out a pencil himself and placing it on the desk in front of him. Naio just nods and decided to fall asleep for a bit so he wouldn't be tired for the test completely, and Naruto picked up his book and continued to read until after about 10 minutes when Naio lifted his head up and turned to look at Naruto. Hey Naruto, why were you avoiding Yugao? She seemed kind of pissed that she couldn't find out or sense you anywhere. Naio asked Naruto, who put his book back away before replying. I wasn't avoiding her, I was training this whole week. I guess I lost track of time. Naruto says while Naio looked at Naruto, not really believing what Naruto was saying. Nice lie, but really why were you avoiding Yugao? She seemed really mad on the outside but looked upset on the inside from you staying away from her. Naio says, concerned. Naruto began trying to think of an excuse to get out of this conversation, but after a couple of seconds just decided to tell his friend the truth. Well, I hung out with her about a week ago and she told me she liked a boy. Yugao said his name was Hayate, so I got a little upset after that and I just tried to stay away from Yugao to try and get my emotions in check. Naruto says, not realizing that Yugao was standing right behind him, who looked mad at first but then gained a sad look on her face. Oh really, why would you get upset if Yugao likes another guy? Naio asked, surprised by Naruto's answer to his question, not really expecting the truth out of Naruto instead of another lie. I don't really know, but it's fine, I would rather she be with him anyway. I got a lot of things I wouldn't want anyone to know about, and also just seeing her happy that day when I told Yugao to go for it and tell him how she felt making me happy that I told her that. Naruto says, still not realizing Yugao was right behind him. Naio looked at Naruto with a tiny smile, knowing that Naruto was in love with Yugao but was still too young to know what love was. Naio looked up knowing Yugao was there the whole time. Yugao mouthed 3 minutes, which meant she would announce herself then, in which Naio nodded back in response, making sure Naruto didn't see him nod to Yugao. After 3 minutes, Yugao walked forward and pulled out the chair that was on the left side of Naruto, making his eyes widen, not realizing Yugao walked up to them. Hey Yugao, how are you doing? I haven't seen you in a while. Naruto asks Yugao, who just sat down while she turned toward Naruto to answer him. I'm good Naruto, but why are you staying away from me? I usually could find you, but this last week I couldn't. Yugao says, knowing she wasn't going to get the same answer that Naio did, which made her kind of sad. I'm sorry Yugao. I is just really busy training and I lost track of time, but I promise to make it up to you though. Naruto says, trying to get Yugao to smile. Ho looked sad at the moment and he wanted to change that. Really Naruto, you sure that is the reason? There isn't anything else to it? Yuga asked, looking at him in the eyes. Yes, that is the main reason why. I'm sorry, Naruto replied, scratching the back of his head. I guess I is right, I'm not going to be able to get the same answer out of him that Naio got out of him. Yugao thought, looking toward the front of the room for a moment before turning back to Naruto. Okay then, but you better make it up to me for making me worry, Yugao says, pouting. I promise. Naruto says to Yugao. Ho gained a smile back, leaving the sad look to disappear. Naruto. Naio and Yugao continued to talk to each other until Naio fell asleep, leaving Yugao and Naruto to talk till Asuhi-sensei stood up from his desk and walked to the front of the class while looking at them with a stack of papers in his hands. Alright class, it is time for the written test. This test will be 25% of your overall grade. Once this test is through, you will all go outside for the taijutsu and accuracy test, which will be another 25% of your grade. Then he'll test you in the back room to see if you have the Academy 3 Jutsu completed, which will be about 50% of your grade. So when I hand all these papers out, only begin when I say begin, Asuhi-sensei explained to them, starting to hand each test out one by one and row by row. Naruto and the rest of the class began to examine the test paper they got when they were all handed out. Begin! Asuhi-sensei shouted, sitting back in his seat behind his desk until the hour is up for the written portion of this test. So he got back to work on his paperwork, hoping to finish within the hour before the kids finished. Naruto and Yugao flew through the test within 10 minutes, but Naio only started after 30 minutes of the testing period had passed because he just woke up. He looked around the room, noticing about half were already done, so he turned to Naruto, who had his head down on the desk relaxing while Yugao is doodling on the back of her paper. Why didn't you wake me up, you idiot? I wanted to be one of the first people done. Naio whispered angrily to Naruto while beginning to write furiously on his test paper. You said you were tired, so I let you sleep some more. I knew the test would be easy for you, so I left you to sleep and is going to wake you soon. Naruto says, lifting his head slowly off the desk. After a couple minutes, Naio finished his test, flipping the paper over once done. Well, you could have still woke me up, it would have made it easier for me, Naio says, laying his head down for a couple of minutes till the test was over. Naruto just nods, seeing Naio go back to sleep, laying his head down as well to relax till time was up, and Yugao was still doodling stick figures on her paper. The testing time of an hour just finished, so Asuhi-sensei got up and started to collect all the papers from the students. Once he was done with that, he returned to the front of the class, handing the papers to a random Chunin ninja who left the class to grade them in silence and to see what the scores were. Come on class, it's time to head outside now for the accuracy and taijutsu test, Matsu says, coming out of the back room with another Chunin net to him, while Asuhi walked into the back room to wait for Matsu to finish. The students all got up and started to head out back to the training ground. Once they were outside, they were led to a circle engraved in the ground like a ring by Matsu-sensei. I'll call you each up one by one to face off against Dane here. All you got to do to pass this test is to stay in the ring for a minute with him to get a perfect score, Matsu says, while Dane walked into the far end of the ring and got into a taijutsu stance. Matsu started to call names out one by one, marking down all the kids who passed or failed this part. He wrote each one down on his clipboard. When he called Naio up, Naio got into the ring and lasted the minute, but barely, because he got pushed out of the ring a second after the minute mark had passed by. Naio passed, Matu says, calling the net few students up. About 1/3 of the students so far passed this part of the test, while the others have failed. Uzumaki Naruto, you're up net, Matsu says, seeing Naruto walk into the ring and got into his stance, which had his left leg out in front of him and his right leg out behind him. Naruto was crouched down like that with his left arm in front of him and his right arm facing behind him, which was the lightning fang style that he came up with when Kakashi was teaching him some things. I am going to kick your, Naruto shouts to the opposing Chunin across from him with a smirk on his face. We will see about that, Naruto, Dane says, trying to taunt Naruto into charging forward at him, but it did not work as he planned it to. You may begin, Matsu shouted to the two of them, hearing cheers behind him from Yugao, who was screaming kick his and show him who's boss, which got Matsu chucking. After a couple of seconds, Dane realized Naruto would not make the first move, so he charged forward so that he could end it quick so that Naruto could not have the time to react, but he still hid quite a bit back when he came upon Naruto. Dane shot out his right fist to slam it into Naruto's face, but Naruto just ducked under the punch and then he blocked the knee coming for his face. Twisting his body around, he brought up his right leg to kick Dane in the chin. But Dane grabbed Naruto's right ankle, holding it in place, but Naruto was not done. Naruto curved his body, bringing up his left leg, spinning in midair to kick Dane in the side of the head. It connected and sent Dane sprawling onto his back. Dane got up almost right away though after the hit. Damn, this kid is pretty good. I think he already passed this test, but I will continue anyway, Dane thought, charging Naruto again to take him out. Yugao and Naio cheered when Naruto got the hit on him, knowing that was a good move by Naruto, but some of the students in the class still hated Naruto and thought he wasn't going to pass because of his age. Dane shot forward with a left kick coming for Naruto's right side. Naruto leaned forward into Dane's body though from the hit, getting punched in the face, making Naruto skid to the edge of the ring. I can't lose, Naruto thought, knowing he only had to stay in the ring 10 more seconds to pass, so Naruto shot forward, changing his tactics up a bit to mess with Dane's mind. When Naruto got close, he thrusted his right fist forward to hit Dane, but he leaned back, which Naruto wanted him to do. So Naruto ducked under the punch sent his way and leaned forward closer to Dane, who was wondering what Naruto intended to do. I win, sensei, Naruto says, thrusting both arms forward and grabbed the top of Dane's pants and pulled them down, making everyone stop talking, with everyone's eyes widening from what just happened. Dane took 2 steps back, his eyes widened before he met with a punch to the gut, then a kick to the face, which sent Dane skidding across the ground out of the ring. Everyone just stares at Naruto, who just walked out of the ring and walked over to Yugao to stand by her, waiting for the net match to commence. Winner Uzumaki Naruto, Matsu-sensei says with a sweat drop at how Naruto had won the match. Dane got up, pulling his pants back on, while walking back into the ring, while all the way he kept giving Naruto a glare for what he did. Really, Naruto? Yugao asks, looking at Naruto like he was crazy. Hey, a win is a win, Yugao. We are ninja. Anything we can use against someone should be used to your advantage, Naruto replied while turning to Naio, who gave him a high five for what he did to the Chunin. At least he won. I hope I get placed on the same team as him and Naio, Yugao thought, looking at Naruto and Neo happily. Azuki Yugao, it's your turn. Matsu says, seeing Yugao alk slowly to the ring while getting into her taijutsu stance, the Izumi stance, which it was a part of her clan. Dane and Yugao both charged forth, clashing back and forth for most of the minute, making Yugao pass the taijutsu test. You pass, Yugao. Now we are moving on to the accuracy portion of the test. Please follow me to the target, Matsu announced, walking to the target while the students followed him. Once there, he turned to them and handed each student 5 kunai and 5 shuriken to hit the targets with. Matsu called mostly everyone up. He then started to look down the list on his clipboard at who were the highest scores in these tests so far. He saw that Yugao, Naio, Naruto and Kenzie were top so far. Next, Uzumaki Naruto. Matsu says, watching Naruto get in line with the target. This is so easy, Naruto thought. Haha. Naruto probably is going to miss. He probably has bad aim. That's why he didn't throw any yet, a random student said, laughing at Naruto. Let's see you laugh after this, Naruto thought, pissed, taking one kunai and aimed it for the target, letting the kunai go earlier than it was supposed to, making it fly right by the student's head, making the student stop laughing, realizing the danger he is in. Whoops, I missed, Naruto says with a smirk, picking up another kunai and about to throw it at the kid again. Let it go, Naruto, or you will fail this part of the test, Matsu said, although he was smiling at what Naruto did. Naruto grumbled but turned back to the target nonetheless and began to throw his kunai and shuriken, gaining him both perfect on the accuracy test. Naruto walked back to Naio and Yugao with a smile on his face as they congratulated him. When Yugao's turn came up, she got a perfect score on both kunai and shuriken, making Naio, Naruto and herself the only ones to get a perfect on this part of the test beside Kenzie. Good job, Yugao, I knew you could do it, Naruto said happily with a blush on his face, though Yugao could tell that he was holding back some pain from before, when she asked him about Hayate. Thanks, Naruto, that means a lot, Yugao says, smiling slightly with thoughts going through her mind like crazy about Naruto. All the students turned to Matsu, waiting for him to explain on what to do next. Now everyone, since the accuracy test is over, everyone head back inside to the classroom to prepare for the next segment of the test, which I'll call you into the back room one by one once we are ready to begin, Matsu says, leaving in a swirl of leaves to let them walk back to class on their own. Finally, the jutsu portion. It's one of my favorite parts of being a ninja besides kenjutsu, but they don't have a test for that, Naruto says to Naio and Yugao, who nods to his statement while all three walked into the classroom and sat in their seats in the back row of the room. Kenzie walked up the aisle to them with a smirk on his face. He leans over the desk. Yugao was at once reaching their back row. Hey cutie, you need to give me a kiss for good luck. I think a kiss from you would help me out quite a bit, Kenzie says to Yugao, cupping her chin, starting to bring Yugao's head closer to him while Naruto's and Neo's eyes widened from this. No thanks, Yugao says, pulling back away from Kenzie, who brought his other hand forward trying to grope Yugao. I'm going to kill him, Yugao thought, about to bring her arm up to slam Kenzie in the face for what he is trying to do. While this encounter is going on, people were already being called into the back room, but they didn't notice. Naruto's hand shot forward and gripped Kenzie's wrist, making Yugao's and Kenny's eyes widen before Kenzie was thrown across the room into the far wall, making Kenzie smash his head off the brick part of the wall, passing out from the hit to the head. I'm going to kill him, Naruto thought, murderously getting up all the way and started to trek forward to the fallen Kenzie, but before he got far, Yugao got up and put a hand on Naruto's arm, making him stop and turn his head slightly to look at Yugao. Please stop, Naruto. Just let it go, it's over, but thank you for sticking up for me, Yugao says, smiling. Okay. I'll stop, but if he does it again, I won't stop till he ends up in the hospital, Naruto says to Yugao. That's fine, Naruto, but you wouldn't get the chance. He would be there from me sending him there before you got the chance to send him there yourself, Yugao replied, taking her hand off Naruto's arm. The graduation test room door opened and Naio strolled out with a smile on his face up to Naruto and Yugao. I passed, guys. I was right. Also, this test is easy, so if you don't pass, I'll kick your asses really hard, Naio says jokingly. Naruto Uzumaki, it's your turn now, Matsu said, leading Naruto into the back room while Yugao sat back down and started to fidget in her seat, hoping that Naruto passes this test. Don't worry, Yugao, Naruto will be fine, he will pass the test for sure, Naio says, sitting down next to her to comfort her. Naruto. When Naruto entered the room, he was told to stand in front of the long desk in the room until they told him to begin the test. Okay, Naruto, Kawari with something in the room, Matsu says to Naruto. He made the hand seals vanishing from his spot and appearing in Asuha's seat, where Asuhi landed in Naruto's spot but not upright but landing on his head, hitting the floor pretty hard. Asuhi stood up and grabbed Naruto from his seat and placed him back onto the floor while sitting back down himself. Well, then Naruto do a henge for us, Matsu says, laughing at what happened to Asuhi. Naruto smiled with an evil grin before performing the hand seals for henge. The whole area was then engulfed in white smoke, completely blocking everyone's view in the room. When the smoke cleared, the whole room was mostly filled by a giant orange-furred fox. Everyone's eyes widened in the room, realizing that this was the Kyuubi no Yoko. They all shot up out of their seats and grabbed a kunai out, leaning up against the back wall, scarred for their lives but willing to give their lives up to protect Konoha. I'm going to roast you guys to a crisp, the giant cubified henge says, sounding just like the demon fox, while the fox brought its mouth right into the face of Dane, of who which was in the room with Asuhi and Matsu, and one of the Kyuubi's paws was up against Asuhi as the other paw pushed against another random shunin, making them scarred beyond belief with sweat rolling off their foreheads before the room was once again covered in smoke before they heard laughing coming from Naruto, of which was standing in the center of the room. You should have seen your faces. So did I pass the henge part? Naruto asks, laughing while stepping out of the smoke the big henge caused. Asuhi jumped forward and smacked Naruto upside the head for doing what he did. Ow! What was that for? Naruto shouted. That was for scaring us half to death, thinking that the Kyuubi was attacking, Asuhi said, walking back to his desk and sat down. The other chunin did the same, although giving a glare to Naruto now. Last part of the test, Naruto make 3 viable clone and no more surprises, Naruto, Matsu says, shaking his head. Naruto jut nod but performed the hand eel for Kage Bunhin no Jutsu. A 10 OLED clone appeared net to him, hawking everyone again but not Aohi Ene. Matsu got up and walked around the desk and put his hand on a shoulder of one of the clones, but he also noticed Asuhi wasn't as surprised as he was. Why you are not shocked, Asuhi? Matsu asks, watching Naruto dispel the clones. He asked me if he could do those type of clones instead of regular clones, so I let him, Asuhi replied while Matsu walked back to his seat and sat down again, reaching into his desk pulling out a black headband. Congratulations Uzumaki Naruto, you are now a genin of the Hidden Leaf Village, serve us proudly, Matsu announced to Naruto, who shot forward and grabbed the headband out of his hand while tying it to his forehead. Can you call Yugao back for us, Naruto? It's her turn now, Asuhi asks. Naruto nods to him and runs out of the testing room back to the classroom to announce that he passed. Naruto entered the classroom, most eyes in the room who were still there turned toward him. I passed, Naruto shouted, running in and ran right up to Naio, giving him a hug, who returned it. Then Naruto turned to Yugao and gave her a big hug as well, which she returned, holding the hug longer than they thought they would. When Naruto realized he was still hugging her, Yugao also realized this, blushing crimson. Naruto pulled back with a blush on his face as well for what he did. Hee. Sorry Yugao, I got really excited, Naruto says, scratching the back of his head. It's okay Naruto, I didn't mind that you hugged me, Yugao says, looking away slightly with a light blush still adorning her cheeks. Okay then, but it's your turn. No Yugao, they told me to tell you to head on in, Naruto said to Yugao, while she runs out of the room into the testing room to become a ninja. You probably stole it, you wannabe. You couldn't have passed, Kenny says, walking up to Naruto with a sneer on his face. Naio just stood there to see what happens so that he could help Naruto if he needed it. Me a wannabe? Hey, then what does that make you? I mean, I threw you into that brick wall over there and you didn't get back up, so that means you're weaker than me, so I wouldn't go about putting nonsense about, Naruto says, taunting Kenzie, who jumped forward at Naruto, throwing a right fist out to hit the blonde in the mouth. Naruto caught the punch aimed for him, sending a punch of his own into Kenzie's gut, doubling him over before punching Kenzie in the mouth, picking him up and threw him into a seat to wait for their senseis to finish up the testing. No, just sit there and be a good boy till Asuhi and Matsu sensei to come in after they finish testing, Naruto says, sitting down in his seat. Naio sat down beside him, both with a grin on their face. About 2 minutes later, Yugao walked back into the room with a high 8 on her forehead. She sat down next to Naruto and Naio. They both congratulated her on the feat of passing the graduation test. So all of us passed, this is great. We may have a chance of us being on the same team together, Naruto says to them, in which they both agreed. They continued to talk until Matsu and Asuhi walked in the door and stood in front of the class. No everyone. This is here your journey begins as a ninja. Your career starts now. Go make a name for yourself and become the best ninja you can be. Meet back here tomorrow at 8 o'clock to meet your teammates and sensei. Asuhi and Matsu says to the class together, both vanishing in a swirl of leave together after the speech is given. Kenzie is the first to leave because he needed to go get checked at the hospital for injuries. Naruto got up along with Yugao and Naio, continuing to talk as they walked down the hallway and exiting out the building onto the street. I guess I'll see you guys tomorrow. Ya ne, Naio says, running off. I got to go to Naruto, but I'll see you tomorrow, Yugao says, giving Naruto a hug. Who hugged back? Yugao pulled back out of the hug with a blush on her face, rushing off down the street as Naio did before. Naruto continued to walk down the street until he heard his name being called. He turned and saw Hayate jogging up to him. Hey Naruto, how have you been? Hayate asks Naruto. I have been good, Hayate. I just became a genin a little bit ago, Naruto says, making Hayate's eyes widen seeing Naruto's headband on his forehead. So you're only 6 and already a genin. Damn, you got me beat. You probably tied with Kakashi's and Itachi's graduation record at the academy, Hayate says to Naruto. Really? Naruto asks, more excited than ever, while Hayate chuckles and nods at Naruto's antics. I say go celebrate you becoming a genin, then how about some ramen? I haven't had it in a while, Hayate says. Naruto grabs onto his hand and begin to drag Hayate down the street to the ramen stand. Once there, they flipped open the flap and sat down net to each other so they could eat and talk at the same time. Hey Naruto, how have you been? I haven't seen you in a while. You did not come here for a eek, Ayame says with a stern look. I'm sorry Ayame-ne-chan, I have been really busy, but I would like 3 bowls of ramen please. Naruto asks. Ayame ho nodded and got to work on his and Hayate's order, which he ordered only 1 bowl of chicken ramen for himself. So Naruto ho is all in your class? Hayate asks as he takes a bit of his ramen. Well, the ones I really talk to in class are Naio and Yugao. They're the only ones I can really stand, Naruto replies, making Hayate cough on his food a little from the mention of Yugao's name. Did Yugao-chan and Naio pass as L? Hayate asks. Naruto ho did not miss the chan suffix from Hayate. Yeah, they both passed, but why do you call her Yugao-chan? Do you like her? Naruto asks, teasing. Hayate ho gained a blush from the comment. I guess you can say that, but I have only known Yugao for 2 weeks so far. I can't just come out and say it to her, Hayate accedes to Naruto, unsure of what to do. So he likes Yugao back. I guess I can help them get together, even though I like Yugao a lot, but I know she likes Hayate, so won't get in the way. I just want Yugao to be happy, Naruto thought, taking a couple bits of his ramen. You should tell her, Hayate, how you feel about her because she likes you too. She told me that she likes you a while back because you're really good friends, Naruto says, patting Hayate on the back, hiding his pain he was feeling. Okay, I will tell her then when I see Yugao again. Thanks Naruto, Hayate says, waving to Naruto, leaving the ramen stand and heading home because it was getting late. Naruto stayed and finished up his ramen while having a long conversation with Ayame, who was happy that Naruto came for ramen today. Naruto got off his stool, dropping money on the counter, and turned to leave. See you Naruto-kun. You better come by sooner this time, Ayame shouts to Naruto as he exited the ramen stand while waving back at Ayame to show that he had heard. I will, Ayame-ne-chan, Naruto shouted back, making Ayame smile, while continuing to walk down the main road. Naruto looked up towards the sky, seeing the stars out. I wish you liked me, Yugao-chan. Maybe I still have a chance, but I don't know, Naruto thought, looking up at the stars. Naruto just entered into the academy door, heading to room 27. He was supposed to meet his teammates and sensei today and begin his life as a ninja. He continued down the hall until reaching the door he was supposed to enter and meet his team. Naruto was very nervous. He was hoping to get people he liked on his team, but he probably wouldn't. It all depended on what the Hokage thought of the team placements. I hope I get at least Yugao or Naio on my team, that would be great, Naruto thought, opening the door to the classroom and entering, closing the door behind him. After he shut the door, he looked around the room, noticing no one was there yet besides Asuhi sensei. He looked at him and nodded in understanding, knowing Naruto would be there early. Naruto shrugged his shoulders, not really caring no one was here yet. He thought it a good thing because he got some peace and quiet before being placed on a team. Naruto turned and started walking up the aisle before he turned around hearing Asuhi call him. Hey Naruto, are you ready to find out what team you are on today? Asuhi asked Naruto from his desk, looking over the team papers, not telling Naruto anything about it. I'm ready Asuhi-sensei, but I hope I get people I like on my team and not anyone from the class that don't really like me. It would make being on the team so much easier if that is to happen, Naruto says, looking at Asuhi, wondering why Asuhi asked him that. Asuhi sees the look Naruto was giving him, so he decided to explain the reason behind his question. I only wanted to know because I know that you want to be paired up with Yugao and Naio, but there is a slight chance of that happening, Naruto, and you know this, Asuhi says, smirking, already well aware that Naruto would like the team placement from the list he just looked at of the teams. I know sensei, but I can only hope for the best to come of it, Naruto says, smiling before turning and walking up the aisle to his seat, pulling the seat out and sitting down in it to get comfortable because he still had 10 minutes before anyone started to come in. That you can, Naruto. You might be put on their team yet, so don't think of the negatives yet, only the positives, Asuhi says before getting back to doing his paperwork for the day. Seeing Naruto out of the corner of his eye, lay his head down on his desk. I wish I could do that right now, but I got all this paperwork to finish, Asuhi thought, sighing from having too much work and from not getting some time to relax at all, really. Naruto laid his head down on his desk, falling asleep, not realizing students were starting to come in through the door. Naruto stayed asleep until Naio walked in and up the aisle, sitting in the seat next to Naruto, but seeing that Naruto was asleep, he decided to wake him up. Naio lifted his arm up and slammed it into the side of Naruto's head just hard enough to wake the blonde up, but he did not expect the punch that came his way, sending him into the wall behind him, knocking the wind out of him. Naruto turned to Naio, who was still on the ground against the wall. Naruto did not really look fazed by the hit that Naio had got on him, but he looked pissed from being woken up already. Why the heck did you hit me, Naio? I was trying to sleep, but you had to go and wake me, Naruto says, grumbling, watching Naio lift himself off the ground, returning to the seat beside Naruto, knowing never to wake Naruto up again like that. I thought to wake you because the teams should be getting called soon, so that's why I woke you up. Naio explained himself so Naruto would stop being mad at him for trying to hit him. Naruto ignored Naio for a couple seconds before replying. Okay. Then I don't mind that you woke me up, but where is Yugao? She usually is never late to class, but why is she late now? Naruto asked Naio, who looked unsure as well as Naruto was. I don't know, Naruto, maybe she is getting some things prepared for the team and herself just to be completely ready for whatever our sensei throws at us today, Naio says to Naruto, who gained a thoughtful look on his face, thinking that maybe that was it. Still, though, she is dedicated to being a ninja, being late for her is unlike her, Naruto says, looking to the front of the classroom for any signs of Yugao before he resumed talking to Naio. They continued talking for a bit before Asuhi stood up and walked to the front of the classroom with a couple of papers in his hands, so the rest of the class turned towards him, waiting for him to talk to them. Okay class, listen up, I will now tell you the team placements for all of you guys, so listen up, Asuhi-sensei says to the class, looking around the class to see if everyone was paying attention to him, and he noticed Naruto was looking from him to the door, then back again to him, but he paid it no mind for now because he has to tell the class the teams first. The teams are as follows. Team 3 is, now Team 10 is Naruto Uzumaki, Yugao Azuki and Naio Terumi, Asuhi-sensei says, making Naruto smile and jump up, pumping his fist into the air to celebrate. When he sat back down calm again, he gave Naio a high five, excited for being on a team with Naio and Yugao. Your Jonin sensei will be Ibiki Morino. Now that all teams were called, please wait here patiently for your team sensei to come, Asuhi-sensei explaining to the class, but right when he finished, the door of the classroom opened up, revealing Yugao walking in with a smile on her face, with the door shutting behind her. Naruto's eyes widened seeing Yugao come in this late. He was going to ask her why she was late when she comes and sits down. Yugao turns to Asuhi-sensei to explain herself of being late. Sorry I was late Asuhi-sensei, I had to get some things for my team meeting, Yugao says to Asuhi while looking at all the people in the classroom. It's okay Yugao, just go sit down, Asuhi says, walking to his desk, getting his folders, and walked out the door to leave the kids to themselves to wait for their teams. Once Asuhi left the room, Yugao walked up the aisle and sat down right beside Naruto, turning to him in the process. Hey Naruto, sorry I was late today, but could you tell me what team I am on? Yugao asks him, seeing Naruto and Naio both smiling happily, knowing that Yugao is going to be excited about being on the same team as them. Me, you and Naio are on the same team together, isn't this great, Yugao? But I really don't know who our Jonin-sensei is. His name is Ibiki Morino, Naruto says to Yugao, telling her what she wanted to know for the last year of the academy, making her happy, jumping up, hugging both Naio and Naruto before sitting back down in her seat. I can't believe it, we are so lucky. I just hope our Jonin-sensei is a good teacher and not some lazy, Yugao says to Naruto, noticing their team and one other team were the only ones left in the room. I wonder when our sensei is going to get here. I want to begin already, but we can't till our sensei gets here, Naruto says, looking depressed because he wanted to begin already. After 10 minutes of waiting, they looked to the front of the room, seeing the whole area fill up with smoke before being blown away, revealing a guy standing there with a grin on his face. Team 10, you are with me. Meet me on the roof in 10 minutes or your training is going to be torture till you become Shunin, but that might happen anyway, but if you're not there then it will be worse than you could imagine. Ibiki explained to them, vanishing in a swirl of leaves to go to the roof to wait for the team to get there. Naruto, Yugao and Naio all shot up out of their seats, rushing out of the classroom, running down the hall and up the roof stairs, opening the door to the roof, appearing on the roof in only 5 minutes, not wanting to be put through torture that their Jonin-sensei was talking about for them. They walked up to Ibiki, seeing him waiting for them on the ledge of the roof. When they walked up to him, Ibiki stood up from the ledge. I see you guys made it in time. How about we get started now by introducing ourselves to each other? I will go first to show you how it's done, Ibiki says, watching them sit down in front of him. Our sensei sure looks weird. I hope he doesn't go through with what he said earlier, Naruto thought, looking at Ibiki, while the same type of thoughts were going through the others' minds as well. My name is Ibiki Morino. I am your Jonin-sensei. I have no likes besides torturing people, and I have many dislikes. My major dislike is when brats complain. My only hobby is working for the village, and I already fulfilled my dream, so I decided to take on a team. That's why I am here. Now Blondie, you go net, Ibiki stated to them, who looked at him like he was crazy, making him grin, but they had no choice but to comply with him. My name is Naruto Uzumaki. I like Kenjutsu and my friends. My dislikes are people who hit on Yugao or mess with her. I also dislike people who don't take me seriously. My only hobby is getting stronger, really, and my dream is to be the best ninja around ever to be seen, Naruto says, to which Ibiki smiled at the kid's determination. Ibiki mentioned for Naio to go net once Naruto finished giving his introduction to them. I am Naio Terumi. My likes revolve around me becoming a hunter ninja. That is also my main goal to achieve in life. My likes are training to get better and hanging out with Yugao and Naruto. I dislike the same things Naruto does, so I have no need to explain myself there, Naio says, making Ibiki grin bigger from knowing that this team is going to go far. He motioned to Yugao to go. I'm Yugao Azuki. My likes are Kenjutsu and my family. I dislike when people think women are weaker than men, which is not true, and I also dislike getting hit on by people I have no feelings for. My goal is to join Anbu in a couple years so that I can protect Konoha and get harder training, Yugao responds, showing Ibiki that he had an assault unit under his teachings, which he was quite alright with. Ibiki turned around, alking on to the ledge of the roof with Team 10 just staring at him, wondering what the guy was going to do net before Ibiki turned his head slightly to them with an evil look to him. Team 10, meet me in front of training ground 44 in 20 minutes, or the test I'm going to give you will be up to incredible levels, Ibiki says to them before vanishing in a swirl of leaves. Naruto turned to face Yugao and Naio with a confused look. I guess we should follow him or he will make our life on this team miserable. I can just see it happening with how Sensei looked when saying that he would make our training like being tortured, Yugao says while getting up along with Naruto and Naio. They started to jump from roof to roof, going to their destination, although they did not know where to go, so it gave Ibiki enough time to set up his plan before his team got there and take his test. About 2 hours later, Team 10 entered a clearing before a huge forest. They walked up to the entrance of the forest, stopping in their tracks to look at how big the forest was to them. Why did Sensei tell us to meet him here in front of this forest, and especially without telling us where to go in the process? It was a pain finding this place. We were asking around for an hour and a half, Naruto says to them. I don't know, Naruto, but there must be a reason why he wanted us to come and meet him here, Yugao replies to Naruto, who turned to her in understanding. Okay, but I never did ask why were you late to the team meeting, Yugao. We were worried about you because you were never late before, Naruto asks Yugao, seeing her turn her head away, not wanting to talk about it. I'll tell you another time, Naruto, just not now, okay? I just don't want to talk about it yet. Yugao says to Naruto, who just noted not wanting to pester anything out of Yugao, not wanting to hurt her in any way. Stop talking. Sensei is walking this way. Naio says, making them all turn to the forest. Seeing Ibiki walk out of it looking like he was ready for something, he walked up to them. When he spotted them, he stopped in front of them when he got near them. Why did you ask us to come here, Sensei? Especially to a place like this? Naruto asks Ibiki, while Ibiki's smirk only got bigger. The reason I wanted to meet you guys here is because I am going to test you guys in the forest behind me. The test will be you running into the forest behind me while I chase you guys, trying to catch all of you before midnight. Your goal is to not get caught. Until then, use everything at your disposal to keep me from catching you, because if I get you, then you fail this test and will be sent back to the academy. Ibiki explains to them, seeing their eyes widen from this information that they got. Are you serious? There is no way we are going to pass you or a Jonin, and we are only Genin. How are we supposed to last against you? Naio says to Ibiki, while Naruto and Yugao could only nod in agreement, to stunned from what he said to ask anything. There is a way, you just got to find it. There is always a way to succeed against a stronger opponent. You pass this test, then you will be my new Genin team and you will start getting missions if you complete this. So go now into the forest. You got about 30 minutes before I come in the forest after you, so no holding back, you will regret it. Ibiki says, stepping aside for them to pass by him to go into the forest. So all we got to do is survive until midnight in the forest. That doesn't sound so bad. Naruto says, walking forward into the forest with Yugao and Naio following close behind him, not really sure if it will be as easy as Naruto thinks it will be. There are things in the forest as well besides me, so you better watch yourselves, because I won't be the only thing hunting you in this forest, Ibiki thought before vanishing in a swirl of leaves. Once Naruto and Team 10 entered the forest, they had no choice but to run for their lives for a good 5 minutes to lose the giant tiger that was on their tail right when they entered the forest. The tiger had jumped at them, making Naruto duck underneath the tiger's jump, pulling out a kunai and slicing open the tiger's stomach, killing the tiger instantly before about another 10 tigers appeared out of the foliage and charged them, making them jump into the trees as fast as they could, and then started to jump from branch to branch to get them away from the pack of hungry tigers before landing in a small clearing in the forest. We were almost tiger food and we only just entered the forest. What the hell else could be in this forest? Naruto asks them while looking around, making sure that they had lost the tigers before sitting down along with the team to discuss what to do now. So what is the plan of attack against Sensei, because we will need a pretty good one against him to survive till midnight, Naio says to them. I guess the plan should be dodge and stay away from him till midnight, but we all know that isn't going to last. Especially with all the animals in the forest after us to eat us for dinner. So I believe me and Naio will set up traps all over in random spots to slow him down, and when he comes we just keep running. If he catches up to us, he said he had to catch all of us before midnight, so I believe one of us will hold him up or slow him down so that the others can get away. Is this plan okay with you guys? Yugao says, looking from Naruto to Naio for their approval of this plan. I think that plan is good, but I think we should stay hidden inside a hollow tree and put traps around the tree at a safe distance from it, so if he finds the area we are hiding in, we could get away without harming ourselves in our own traps. Also, I will make around 200 clones of us in groups of 3 and send them off in different directions so we can distract Ibiki for a good portion of the test. If he finds us after that, then we will go with Yugao's plan and run with one of us to distract him, because if he doesn't get the whole team, then the test would not be over yet. Naruto explains his idea to add on to what Yugao had planned. They both agreed that Naruto added a valid part to the whole plan. They got up with Naruto forming the hand signs for the Kage Bunshin no Jutsu, making the little clearing and part of the forest around the clearing fill up with about 200 shadow clones before they left in different directions, pairing up in groups of 3 to distract Ibiki for a while. Okay, let's go. We are going to give him a run for his money. Let's show him what we got, Naio says before he and Yugao jumped up into the trees around the little clearing, starting to set up traps for Ibiki if he got there before midnight. Naruto performed Kage Bunshin again with 10 clones appearing in front of him. Stay guard around the clearing from a little distance, but stay hidden in the foliage, Naruto told the clones, which all noted and ran off into the forest different ways to set up a perimeter around the area to hold off Ibiki before one of them had to if they were found here. Naruto himself walked around the clearing setting up wire traps, kunai traps and explosive traps a safe distance around the hollow tree to give them cover. Yugao and Naio jumped back down in front of Naruto, nodding their heads to show that their job was complete before Naruto handed each of them 10 explosive tags that he made to use for a quick escape. They thanked him before all three entered the hollow tree to stay hidden for now. Ibiki. Ibiki looked up at the sun, realizing it was time to begin the test, so he got up from his sitting position off the ground and shot off into the forest from the tower that was in the center of the forest. He entered the forest on ground level and kept running until he spotted movement coming from behind a couple of trees to his right about 15 meters away from him, so he pulled out a kunai and threw it at the moving figures, in which they shot out of the tree line at him while dodging the kunai he threw. I didn't think you guys would go for a frontal assault. I thought you were smarter than that, Ibiki says, hitting Naio in the face before it dispelled in a puff of smoke, making Ibiki's eyes widen before taking out the other two with a kick to the head and a kunai embedded in the other. They know I'm coming for them now. That was a smart idea. They know where I came in at and probably know which way I'm going if they made more clones throughout the forest. He smiled at finally having a genin team that thought about what to do before doing something stupid. It made him excited for what was to come of this. He hoped they passed this test. Ibiki turned right and shot in the direction the clones came from, but he knew that this probably would not lead him to where they were, but it would lead him to more clones, which could help him in this situation of not knowing where Team 10 was hiding at. After about 5 hours of Ibiki relentlessly searching through the forest of death, killing clones after more clones, he came on a single clone in a bush which probably did not know that he was there. Ibiki jumped down from the branch he was on, stabbing the clone in the head from behind to make sure the clone did not see him coming. Only one clone this time. I must be getting close. Usually if they only have one clone in an area, there are more nearby, sorta like a set perimeter around an area. I think I will kill all the clones before going after them. I can sense 3 chakra signals in that clearing up ahead and a couple around the area telling me the real ones are in that clearing, using these clones as guards and the ones from before as distractions. Hey smart kids, they pass, but I'm not done testing them yet, Ibiki thought before he started to head around the whole perimeter, killing clone after clone until he killed the last one with a kunai to the chest. They probably got something set up waiting for me to come. I better go grate them, Ibiki thought, turning toward the clearing in the distance, pulling out another kunai, putting the second one in his left hand, charging forward and then stopping about 10 feet from the clearing, just enough to give him a view of the whole area. Team 10. He is going to be showing up pretty soon. The clones that I have set up around the area are being destroyed one by one. He knows we are here but wants to take them out first, Naruto says, unsheathing his sword in the hollowed out tree they were in. Yugao and Naio followed suit, pulling out a kunai each to prepare for Ibiki to attack, which was inevitable to happen. I should have brought my sword today to the academy. It would have really helped me now in this situation, but I guess I have to make do with this kunai, Yugao thought, staring down at the kunai she held in her hand before looking out into the grass clearing to see if there was any movement in the trees like Naruto and Naio were doing before they both spotted their sensei jump down into the clearing, slowly walking towards them, not knowing the traps that were waiting for him. Sensei knows we are here. There is no reason to stay in here any longer. It would only make it harder on us if we were to be caught in here if our traps don't work on Sensei, Naruto says, standing up along with Naio and Yugao, aiding the hollow tree into the clearing but not too far out so not to set off the traps they had set around the clearing. Ibiki looks up, seeing Team 10 come out from in the hollow tree. That was a good idea, because when I get past these traps they set up for me, they can still get away before I get to them without them being trapped in the tree, Ibiki thought, running forward, his legs in the process cutting multiple trip and sensor wires, but he kept on running at them, deflecting kunai from all directions and ducked under a log set with explosives, but it didn't slow him down and Team 10 realized this. Crap, the traps didn't work. What should we do now? I mean, we have to get away from him and last another 4 hours, which then it will be midnight, Naio says, whispering to them, not knowing what to do, seeing Ibiki getting closer by the second. Naruto went through hand signs, activating the seals around the area. The whole field lit up with a blinding white light. Let's get out of here. And good work, Naruto, Yugao says as they shot into the trees to get away from Ibiki, who stopped in his tracks when the area lit up in white, blinding him for the moment. What was that? That was a good distraction, Naio asked Naruto, who looked back for a second before turning to Naio as they continued jumping from branch to branch, heading in a random direction to get away and think of another plan before they were found by their sensei again. They were blinding seals, sorta like a flash bang, but it will also make him immobile for a while, giving us time to think of a new plan, Naruto says to them as they continued their trek through the forest. After a bit of traveling in the forest, they came to a tower in a large clearing, stopping in the field before the tower, trying to find a way into the tower without alerting anyone. Over there, I see a door, come on. Yugao says, rushing across the clearing to a door that was to the right side of the tower. The door was locked, so they set 2 explosive tags on the door, stepping 30 feet away before detonating the tags, sending the door flying off its hinges. I think we only needed 1 tag for the job. Naruto says, sweat dropping by how much damage the 2 tags did to the door before all 3 entered through the door going into the tower. They walked through a corridor and down a pretty long hallway, coming to a big room with an arena in the center of the big room. What would an arena be doing out here in a tower in the middle of this training ground for? Yugao asked out loud to herself, not really expecting an answer back, but when they entered onto the arena floor, another door opened to the right side, making them turn their heads in that direction quickly to make sure Ibiki wasn't there already, but the lights went out before they could get a good view of the person entering through the door. They then heard a voice coming from behind them. Took you guys a long time to get here. Now this is where the fun begins, the voice said behind them, but they remembered the voice. It was Ibiki's voice. They didn't know how he got there so fast, but they didn't care. They got into defensive stances in a circle while the lights flickered back on. They all looked ahead, seeing Ibiki standing there with a smirk on his face. How did you get here so quickly? Those seals should have kept you there for about 2 minutes, but then it still would take you a while to get here. Naruto shouted at Ibiki, who started to walk closer to them, making them start taking steps back away from him. That was only a clone like your shadow clones. I have been here in the control room watching all of what you were doing from cameras spread throughout the forest, so when you came into this tower here, I came to greet you like the sensei I am, Ibiki says to them. So you fooled us this whole time, making us believe you were after us when actually you were here, leading us here with that clone of yours, Yugao says, getting slightly pissed because she didn't see it coming at all. Ha ha ha. I guess I did, but I am not a jonin for nothing. The bad thing for you guys is the test isn't over yet, so here I come, Ibiki says, charging forward at them, swinging down an Anbu issued sword at them, making them jump back a bit before Naio started to make hand signs. Kaden Phone IX Flower Jutsu, Naio says, producing 4 item-sized fireballs, sending them at Ibiki, making him sink into the ground to get away from the attack that was meant to kill him, but they hit the wall, burning them quite a bit. They started to look around for him, realizing that their sensei was nowhere in the room to be found. They thought he left until hands shot out of the ground, pulling Naio up to his neck in the ground, but Yugao and Naruto jumped back, dodging the hands that came up at them. 3 Ibikis jumped out of the ground in front of Naio, who was still in the ground, to begin attacking Yugao and Naruto. You two are next, Ibiki stated, charging forward with only 2 clones while the other clone dispelled in a cloud of smoke, needing only 2 clones now to win. Shit, we got to move, Naruto shouted to Yugao, who both jumped back while Naruto made the hand signs for Kage Bunshin no Jutsu, filling the whole arena with about 300 Yugao and Naruto clones, but they started to get destroyed left and right by Ibiki. He turned around after killing another clone, seeing Naio was dug out of the ground and was standing next to Yugao and Naruto again, waiting for Ibiki to attack them again. We got to win. If we lose, we are being sent back to the academy for sure. That is what he said, Yugao thought, running forward with a kunai in her right hand in a frontal grip and the kunai in her left hand in a reverse grip. Yugao jumped over a swing from Ibiki as Naruto shot forward under her and swung his sword up, taking out one of the clones, while Yugao twisted her body in mid-air, slamming her foot into the face of the other clone, but after that clone had vanished, Ibiki grabbed her ankle while he kicked Naruto in the face as he tried to cut him in half, sending him into the wall of the arena before he chucked Yugao into the ground, slamming her pretty hard into the ground. Naio appeared behind him when he slammed Yugao into the ground. Naio shot forward, bringing his arm forward to knock Ibiki out of the way so he could save Yugao, but right before his fist hit, an elbow found its way into his gut, knocking him out in the process. Ibiki picked up Naio by the shirt while looking around the arena at Naruto and Yugao. You guys did really good. I didn't think that a team would be this good. I was intent on failing you guys, but I'm changing my mind now, Ibiki thought to himself as he picked up Yugao and Naruto as well, walking out of the tower before then vanishing in a swirl of leaves appearing at the entrance to the forest. He then tied Team 10 up, dropping them on the ground, while he sat down himself to wait for them to wake up, but he had a plan for when they woke up. About a half hour later, they woke up to about 10 Ibikis standing around them. It's time for another beating. Are you ready for it, little brats? Ibiki said angrily for intimidation effect, but chuckling inside his mind at the faces they were making. One of his clones then vanished, leaving smoke behind, making Ibiki's eyes widen, not knowing what was going on before turning his head back to Team 10, seeing that Naruto was no longer there, just some smoke. A shadow clone. I didn't think he could fool me, but I guess he pulled a fast one on me, Ibiki thought, chuckling to himself, letting Naruto take out the other 8 clones of himself before he caught a fist aimed for his face before pulling it forward, throwing Naruto out into the field. But not realizing before it was too late, Yugao and Naio jumped up after a Naruto clone untied them. They jumped back to Naruto, helping him up before they turned to Ibiki and got back in their stances, prepared in case of another attack before they dropped their stances, hearing Ibiki start breaking down laughing. "Why are you laughing at us? We are going to kick your..." Naruto shouted, about to charge forward, but Yugao put her arm in front of Naruto to stop him from doing something so reckless. "Don't, Naruto, we have to stick together to pass this test. He is a Jonin after all. Even if we can't win, we are still going to give him one hell of fight," Yugao says to Naruto, calming him down a bit. "How are we supposed to go about this though? He beat us every time so far. But we still got to try again, we can't give up," Naio says, pulling out about 3 kunai, wrapping each with an explosive note before launching them forward, making Ibiki stop laughing. The kunai hit in front of Ibiki, going off, leaving the whole area covered in smoke. Once the smoke cleared, they walked forward to see if they got him, but right when they got near the area, a hand touched Naruto's shoulder and Neo's shoulder from behind, making their eyes widen. "You guys almost had me there, but guess what? Time's up," Ibiki said, chuckling, seeing the down faces before him before he took a couple steps back from them to tell them the good news. "I guess we failed then, since we didn't make it to midnight," Yugao says to Ibiki, making Naruto and Naio depressed because they didn't make it to midnight. They only made it till 11:30. They were so close. Naruto shot forward, intent to take Ibiki down, but Ibiki grabbed him by the arms, subduing Naruto in the process. "Now, Naruto, I didn't even say if you passed or failed yet. I was about to get to it before you attacked me. You guys pass all right. You're the only genin team to give me any type of challenge, so no doubt I'm passing Team 10. Ibiki says, releasing the grip on Naruto's arm, letting him walk back to Yugao and Naio. "Yes, we pass. I can't believe it. I am finally a ninja," Naruto shouted, running up to Yugao and Naio, giving them a hug, which they both returned it. They pulled out of it when Ibiki began to talk again. "Team 10 meet at Training Ground 2 tomorrow at 7 o'clock in the morning for some training. Then after that you will receive your first D-rank mission as a team," Ibiki says to them, vanishing in a swirl of leaves. Naruto, Yugao and Naio sat down in the field and continued to talk for a bit before they got up, all leaving, heading home for the night. "See you tomorrow, Yugao and Naio," Naruto says to them while running up to Yugao, giving her another hug, making her blush, but returned it, making Naruto blush as well. Naio just looks and grins before he turned away and began to walk, leaving the two of them there. "Naruto feels so comfortable. I feel so safe in his arms," Yugao thought, sighing, but then realizing what she was doing, pulled back from the hug. Naruto pulled back as well, both faces crimson red. "Sorry, Naruto, my parents are going to be pissed the way it is, so I'll see you tomorrow, Naruto," Yugao says, running off while Naruto continued to just walk down the street, slowly enjoying the night air. "I'm finally a ninja. My name will be remembered from this day forward," Naruto thought happily.